3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the Play Show, yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor, 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to what is a Thursday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all the great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course, streaming live on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in. That's 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter and X at Zach Gelb. That's ZachGelb. I got Moist Mike. I got Stuart Kovacs. We are rocking and rolling all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time. Coming up at 4:20 p.m. Eastern time today, 1:20 p.m. Pacific. Former NFL and also Alabama running back Damien Harris will stop by, and now he does a great job. CBS Sports HQ will get you set for the matchup coming up on Saturday between Alabama and Georgia. And then in the final hour of the show at 5:20 p.m. Eastern, 2:20 p.m. Pacific, we have another big college football game this weekend. Not as big as Alabama and Georgia, I get that, but there is Penn State and Illinois, so we will tap in with Tom Hannifan, who does a great job as the host of State on the Believe Podcast Network. It is also the voice of TNA Wrestling. I feel like that's a Maggie and Perloff kind of guest today whenever we mention something with wrestling. They do a lot of wrestling guests, and I did not know how big of a fan of wrestling that Maggie, EJ, and I don't know if Perloff is a big fan of wrestling, but I think he just goes along with it. But I do see a lot of wrestling guests on our very fine morning extravaganza. Anyway, let's start off with the Steelers. So I was going to the bathroom before the show started, and I was actually going to the bathroom before the show started, not taking number one or number two. I was drinking a cup of tea, and when I was drinking a cup of tea today, I may have spilled a little bit of the tea on my shirt. So I went to the bathroom, took a paper towel, and I ended up like blotting my shirt with a little water. And while I was in the bathroom, I ran into one of our great sales managers here, a guy by the name of Brian Rooney, and he is a massive, and I mean a massive, Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So I'm just trying to create a little conversation in the bathroom, obviously, where everyone loves to have a conversation and kill time before you have to go back to your desk and actually continue working. I go, how about your Steelers? 3-0. And he was like, we'll see what happens. And I go, oh, you're not very confident then with what you're seeing. He goes, it's the same old, same old. They'll have a better record than the talent on the roster. They're not going to be going to the Super Bowl. They're not going to be going to an AFC championship game. And he goes, I don't even know if they're going to even win a playoff game. And he goes, as you know, they haven't won a playoff game since the 2016 season. I said, yeah, of course. I go, I think that's a fair analysis. I don't even think it's a lock that the Steelers make the playoffs, quite frankly. But if you told me that they made the playoffs as a wild card team, or even if they won the division and then they lost in the first round, would anyone be surprised? No. No one would be surprised whatsoever, because that's kind of been the Pittsburgh way as of late. And he made an interesting comparison. He compared the state of the Yankees to the state of the Steelers, where they're always good, they're always competitive, but nationally, I think like in baseball, a lot of fans, if you're not a Yankee fan, will be like, oh, Aaron Boone's a good manager. Yankee fans will be like, he stinks. And for Mike Tomlin nationally, a lot of us would say, oh, he's a good football coach. But a lot of Steelers fans will be like, yeah, he lost the way, the Steeler way, just like how Aaron Boone has lost the Yankee way, where, you know, at least Mike Tomlin has won a championship. Aaron Boone has not won a championship, a World Series championship as a manager. But I got the point, and it was a very good point. So it got me thinking a little bit about the Steelers. And what I'm about to suggest, I understand why the Steelers wouldn't want to do it. But I think Russell Wilson should do it. Russell Wilson should demand a trade. Russell Wilson, where his career has now become a sad career, where, yeah, he has a Hall of Fame case to be made, but Russell Wilson the last 3 years is kind of been a punchline to every joke. And he's kind of been someone now that we used to celebrate and now we humiliate. But I don't want the Russell Wilson career to end without him getting another opportunity. And in Pittsburgh, I look at Justin Fields as I don't see a scenario outside of injury where the Steelers should find a way to put Justin Fields on the bench and play Russell Wilson. But you could tell, whether it is a coaching game through the media that Mike Tomlin is playing, or if maybe it reflects that Mike Tomlin isn't all in on Justin Fields, it does say something when every Tom, Dick, and Harry in America says, hey, Justin Fields should be the guy moving forward, and Mike Tomlin is sitting there lecturing us in his press conferences, and he won't name Justin Fields the permanent starting quarterback when everyone understands that Justin Fields should and will be the quarterback for the rest of the season. Now, maybe Mike Tomlin doesn't want to give that to Justin Fields yet. Maybe he wants to see more. Maybe he's not fully bought in. Maybe when Russell Wilson is fully healthy, even though it would be stupid, that Mike Tomlin says, hey, he feels like he owes it to Russell Wilson. But you have now until the midway of the season when you have the trade deadline for Russell Wilson to have an opportunity to go somewhere else. And I don't think Russ is a great quarterback anymore. Obvious statement of the day. I don't even know if he's a good quarterback anymore. But in year one in Denver, he was a disaster. An unmitigated disaster. And then in year two, he improved, but his head football coach, Sean Payton, wanted no part of him. And Sean went into that job knowing Russell Wilson wasn't his guy. And that's why I question, why did Sean even take the job in the first place if a year after that, your big, great mystery plan is going to be Bo Nix as your quarterback? And don't get me wrong, Bo Nix was a really good college player. The last 2 years, he saved his college career at Oregon, where previous to that, he was a big disappointment at Auburn. But when Bo Nix went 12th overall in the draft, my jaw hit the floor because I was in stunned disbelief. I thought there was a chance Bo could be a first-round quarterback, but at the back end of the first round. I didn't think he was going to go in the top 15 picks of the NFL draft in at number 12. And I kind of feel like the highlight of Bo Nix's career is going to be those 2 preseason games when everyone was raving about him. I don't believe Bo Nix is going to be a good NFL quarterback. I think he's a college quarterback, not an NFL quarterback. But for Russell Wilson, he could have gone to other places. He went to Pittsburgh because it's a stable organization. He trusts Mike Tomlin, and he thought, right, he would be the starting quarterback. Now, when he elected to go there, quickly after that, and I know this for a fact because it was told to me, and I said this at the time, there was no quarterback competition between him and Kenny Pickett. There was never going to be a legitimate quarterback competition between him and Kenny Pickett. He went there knowing he was going to be the week 1 starter. But then a curveball was thrown his way when not only was Kenny Pickett traded to the Philadelphia Eagles, which further illustrates that point, but in response to that move, Justin Fields had interest in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh had interest in Justin Fields, and they took a flyer on Justin Fields. And we were told in this offseason that the Steelers' offensive line was revamped and significantly improved. It was revamped. It was not significantly improved, though. So in the offseason, or leading up to the start of the season, in July, we know Russell Wilson suffered that calf injury. Up until that point, though, when there was a competition, but it was waited for Russell Wilson to win it, Russell Wilson wasn't running away with the job. And Justin Fields was just fine. But when you have an older quarterback who was not running away with the job when there's a competition for him set up to succeed, then he gets hurt, and you have another quarterback who has a higher ceiling at this stage of his career and is younger, and many people thought was just ruined by the Chicago Bears, there's going to be excitement that brews around that quarterback. And I had the same conversation, right, with the Falcons. I said both these things leading up to the season. With the Steelers, I said, I'd rather see Justin Fields over Russell Wilson. It seems irrelevant and pointless to me to play Russell Wilson this year. And then when I talked about the Falcons, I said Kirk Cousins is still a good quarterback, but when you draft Michael Penix Jr. 8th overall, I know what Kirk Cousins is. I don't know what the ceiling is of Michael Penix Jr. and he's ready to play. Quite frankly, I'd rather see Michael Penix Jr. But the difference there is there was a 4-year commitment to Kirk Cousins for $180 million, $100 guaranteed, so you knew Kirk was going to be the guy this year. For Russell Wilson, there's real no commitment. It's a 1-year contract with what? $1.5 million. And Justin Fields is on a prove-it year and a prove-it contract as well. because he's still on his rookie deal from the Chicago Bears. So Fields, because of Russ not running away with it and Russ also getting hurt, it's now his job to lose. And they're 3-0. And it's not like Justin Fields has played great, but considering what is around him, a rough offensive line, and you have two solid running backs, and you got George Pickens, and you got Pat Freiermuth, Justin Fields, when I'm looking at him, this is now set up for him to be the starting quarterback for the rest of the season as long as he stays healthy. So I can understand why the Steelers, if Russ comes to them and says, hey, I want to get traded, if the Steelers say no, because they still want to see more from Justin Fields before they feel comfortable in trading their insurance policy, or with this idea that, hey, Justin Fields is a mobile quarterback, he could get hurt, and you want to have a good backup quarterback, and Russell Wilson is a heck of an option to have as a backup quarterback. But for Russell Wilson, I would at least go into Omar Khan's office, at least have the conversation with Mike Tomlin and say, guys, I just want a chance to play. And I understand with what Justin has done so far, the Steelers winning, him being younger, him having the higher ceiling in the year of 2024, I'm not in the plans of this organization, regardless of what you say publicly, to probably start a bunch of games this year, if any at all, after this 3-0 start. So I'm asking you as a favor, and the Steelers could say no, to trade me from now until the deadline. And the first team, if I'm Russell Wilson, that I would say go trade me to, it would actually be in the AFC, and it would be to the Las Vegas Raiders. Not that they're the most desirable situation, but for Russell Wilson, it's getting another opportunity to play. Gardner Minshew is no good. You already see him and Davante Adams not be on the same page. Aiden O'Connell couldn't win that job. Russell Wilson, I would like to see him start the rest of the season for the Raiders and see if he could catch lightning in a bottle there, and maybe you end up keeping Davante Adams after this season. Because I don't think Davante Adams getting traded before the deadline, but I do think he'll get traded after the season if the Raiders can't get something competent in place this year at the quarterback position. And outside of that, I could talk about other destinations. I do believe that the Dolphins intend for Tua Tagovailoa to come back. They just have to weather the storm of him being out for 3 more games. I don't think the Dolphins, I could see why Russ would want to go there, but I don't think the Dolphins are going to do that to Tua. The Giants, they're giving Daniel Jones one last chance. I think that fate is already sealed, signed, and delivered, but they're going to honor that commitment to Daniel Jones for the rest of the season. The Browns, it would make sense because Deshaun Watson stinks right now. And I was actually involved in that rumor a few years ago. It was a report from Mike Florio and Chris Sims, remember? And this was like during the pandemic, that before that, when Hugh Jackson was the coach, that John Dorsey tried to get Russell Wilson to Cleveland. And I had Hugh Jackson on the show, and he said, yeah, he had no clue what was going on there. That's the first time he ever heard of that. But I don't think that the Cleveland Browns are going to be bringing in Russell Wilson, even though it would make sense. And maybe another team you could throw out there is Tennessee. And for Tennessee, I think, even though Callahan is clearly frustrated with Will Levis, what they did this year was they surrounded him with enough, even though it's not the greatest roster in the world, but there's enough there on offense to see if he could swim or if he's going to sink. And I think they're going to allow him the rest of the season, the majority of the season, to go on out there and see if he can find a way to start swimming, because so far through the first 3 weeks, Will Levis is sinking down to the bottom of the ocean for the Tennessee Titans. So I look at the options out there and where Russ could go play. It's back in the AFC West, and it's with the Raiders. And I would like to see that happen. Hey, Stu, let me ask you this. Through the first 3 games, are you done with, like, if it was just Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell, would you rather see Aiden O'Connell at this point than Gardner Minshew?
No.
Okay.
I don't think Minshew's done enough to lose the job. He hasn't been great, but he's not on the list of issues, I don't think.
Okay, so if I had to ask you this, these 3 quarterbacks, Minshew, Russell Wilson, or Aiden O'Connell to start on Sunday, who would you rather see start on Sunday?
Minshew 1, Wilson 2, O'Connell 3.
Huh. So Minshew over Wilson. Okay.
Yeah.
Explain that just one.
I don't think I've seen anything in the last few years from Russell Wilson that makes me say he's clearly a better quarterback than Gardner Minshew. Could he be? Maybe. Mm-hmm. Do you take the chance and trade a 6th or 7th round pick and pay him the $1 million?
Yeah,
sure.
It's also going to cost you nothing to do.
Yeah, it's a no risk, but I don't think you go into making a trade like that and saying, okay, the Raiders are automatically way better with Wilson over Minshew.
Now, let me ask you this. If you were Russell Wilson, would you rather be in Pittsburgh with Justin Fields in front of you, or would you rather be with the Raiders with Gardner Minshew in front of you?
Raiders with Gardner Minshew.
I think there's a better
more
chance
likely
to play.
Going to play. Yes, unless, like you said, unless Fields gets hurt.
And if Russ doesn't end up getting on the field at some point to start some games this year, where do we go from here? And that's why I threw it out a few weeks ago that it's almost, when I saw this was coming, where Justin Fields was going to be the guy in Pittsburgh, where I said this and people were like, I had a lot of people in my mentions that were upset with me for saying this. But I said, Russell Wilson, if he doesn't get back on the field and start to show that he could be a solid quarterback again, he should retire. And it wasn't me trying to say, hey, Russ, you have to retire. It was like, man, I wasn't doing it from an evil or mean-spirited place. It was more so because Russ has a Hall of Fame caliber career, but I know how the voters work, and I know what people remember. And I've never seen a player at a quarterback who's so well-liked for over a decade, it just changed on a snap of a finger, and now it's almost like everyone's rooting against him. It would almost be better if he just retired at the end of the year if he doesn't see the field, because to try to keep on latching on and jumping around from place to place, it's going to get to a point where then people are going to start to remember that more so than the great times that you had in the league that was setting you up to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. So I think Russ should demand a trade, and I think he should demand a trade to the Raiders. What say you? 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. We'll take a time out on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. When we come on back, is there any reason to believe in the Cowboys this season as they do kick off Week 4 of the NFL season tonight in the swamps of Jersey up against the New York Football Giants? Sports fans, listen up. 1 in 8 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer, and bladder leaks can be a side effect. That's why Depend is teaming up with the Prostate Cancer Foundation to encourage screening, because health is a long game and it's yours to win. Now, here's the cool part. Through November, Depend is contributing up to $300,000 to prostate cancer research by donating 40 cents for every purchase of shields, guards, and Real Fit products. Void in Mississippi. Learn more at Depend.com.
You're in a 4.5-minute break. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
We'll talk about the Cowboys and the Giants to kick off Week 4 tonight in just a second. 855-212-4227. 855-212-4227 is the number to call up the Zach Gelb Show. And Wes in Boise has elected to do that. Wes, what do you say on this afternoon? How are you?
Hi, Zach. You got a great show.
Appreciate
I'm
it.
a lifetime Seattle Seahawk fan.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think Jim Zorn was better than Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson had an unfair advantage over Jim because he had the Legion of Boom. Best defense in the league. Got him to the Super Bowl twice. Russell Wilson, you going to call that man a Hall of Famer when he tries to get his coach and his general manager fired so he can get somebody in there to do things his way? His way has never worked. He was a game manager when Pete Carroll installed him as the quarterback in 2012. That's all he's ever been. Hall of Famer? Well, I think he proved himself with Denver. He's a Hall of Famer, all right, Zach.
Wes,
what do you got to say about that?
I'm infatuated by one point that you just said. You'd rather have Jim Zorn as your quarterback than Russell Wilson. I need to hear more of an explanation on this one.
Okay, well, when the Seahawks first started up, they had Jack Patera as their coach, and we had Jim Zorn to Steve Largent. It was the best duo in all of football. They burned everybody. Largent would run right by these DBs, and Zorn's arm is so much better than Russell Wilson. You're going to get a whole bunch of Seattle people to tell you that. I used to live to watch that combo on Sundays. They were really good. It wasn't until Chuck Knox came in and decided to run the ball that we, lost our identity for a while, but we were a better team. But Jim Zorn, I mean, it's probably before you were born.
Oh, it's before I was even a thought, to be fair.
Yeah, there you go. Jim Zorn to Steve Largent. And you
I love Steve Largent, but, Steve Largent's a Pro Football Hall of Famer. Jim Zorn, no one's making the case for him to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. You can make that case for Russell Wilson.
You really can for Jim Zorn. If Jim Zorn had the Legion of Boom, because Zorn to Largent, they were putting up...
Jim Zorn has 111 career passing touchdowns to 141 interceptions. That's not Hall of Fame numbers.
You're probably right there. But
and a
I'm just
44
saying
and 62 record.
Well, yeah,
Don't
you
get me
got no
wrong,
defense.
Wes. Do you think it's fair to say? And I get your minus the Jim Zorn stuff. I understand when the Seahawks won the Super Bowl, you thought of the defense first, you thought of the coach first, Pete Carroll, and then you thought of Marshawn Lynch before you thought of Russell Wilson. I understand that. But because how it ended, do you think it's safe to say that ruined your view and maybe caused a little animosity that you maybe are displaying today for Russell Wilson?
It was the way he worked his way out of Seattle.
Yeah.
That's what got me. I like Russell Wilson. When he was a Seahawk, I rooted hard for Seattle every game like I do now.
Sure.
But, I rooted hard for that cat. But
You know what the problem was, Wes? You want to know what the problem was? The problem with Russell Wilson is what you just said. It was his insecurities. Because when he won, he didn't get the real credit and the praise. And towards the end, when they gave him more power, he wanted to be the sole reason why they won. And he found out that life was a lot more difficult away from Seattle than what it was when he was there. And it's going to end up costing him a spot in the Hall of Fame. I really do believe that, if he doesn't get out of the league soon. But even though you have great disdain for Russell Wilson, Wes, and I appreciate the phone call, you can't be saying that Jim Zorn was a better quarterback than Russell Wilson. So if I give you the best statistical season that Jim Zorn had in Seattle, it was 1979. He had 3,661 passing yards and 20 touchdowns to 18 interceptions. Russell Wilson, I'll cherry pick like 5 years here. He, in 2015, had 4,024 yards, 34 touchdowns, 8 picks. And then I'll give you a 4-year stretch from 2017 to 2020. Here are his numbers. 3,983 yards, 34 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. 3,448 yards, 35 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. 4,110 yards, 31 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. And then 4,212 yards, 40 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions. Russ made a mistake leaving Seattle. And the irony was he was on the Dan Patrick Show saying he was tired of being at the Super Bowl each and every year as a guest and not playing in it. And he wanted to be one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But Russ was concerned who got the credit and how his image was perceived. And that's what ultimately did him in. Because I said this at the time, and I thought it was going to work in Denver, where he wasn't going to win a Super Bowl, but I thought he'd be at least good. But I said at the time that when I looked at Denver roster, I said the offensive weapons in Seattle are better than what he had where he was going to in Denver. So there's one thing, Wes, and I appreciate the phone call and the passion and the history lesson that we got. But there's a difference in you being upset with Russ when he left and then saying, hey, I'd rather have Jim Zorn as the quarterback than Russell Wilson. There's a difference in that. You could be angry with him and not try to make a case of Jim Zorn being better than Russell Wilson. I think we need to do this in a fair way. But I think a lot of Seattle fans, they don't like Russ anymore, or they say, Russ, don't you kind of miss us? Because you'd much rather have DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Jackson Smith and Jigba than whatever you had in Denver or now being the backup in Pittsburgh. All righty. Is there any reason to believe in the Cowboys this season? If the Cowboys want to make people somewhat believe in them, they better eviscerate and just destroy the New York Giants tonight. Now, with that being said, I don't really think there's a great win for the Cowboys tonight. If they win this game close, you're going to look at the Cowboys and say, okay, they beat a bad football team in the Giants by a small margin. Why does that make me believe in the Cowboys after their first 3 games? But a superior football team should blow out an inferior football team. And that's what needs to happen for the Cowboys tonight. And if they do that, they'll be 2-2. And I'm not sitting here saying that all of a sudden I'm going to start praising the Cowboys. They blew out the Browns to open up the season. Good win. Then in week 2, they got blown out by the Saints. They were about to get blown out by the Ravens, and they made that comeback, but they still lost. I don't think this Cowboys team is better than the Cowboys team the last 3 years where they've had 12 wins, 12 wins, and 12 wins. They're not. They got worse this offseason. They dragged their feet, and they waited to get the Dak deal done when they could have got it done before the start of free agency. They could have moved that money around. But with that being said, this Dallas team is still better than the Giants. And Dallas should win, and they should cover the 5.5 points tonight. But if Dallas can't cover the 5.5 points tonight, or dare I say it, the Giants beat them outright, then the problems that I saw in Dallas before the season that had me predict them to not make the playoffs this year are even greater than what I imagined. Marco Belletti is here, and he is a fair New York Football Giant fan. He is usually more negative than positive because, as of late, the Giants have only really given him reasons to be more negative than positive. Where are you at short week, Thursday night, Giants coming off a win in Cleveland. Neighbors look sensational. You're going up against the Cowboys. Their defense has been brutal through the first week. In weeks 2 or 3, they did a good job in week 1. Dak is a good quarterback, not a great quarterback. Outside of CeeDee Lamb, there's not much in that offense that scares you. You know, the Giants, at least they have Dexter Lawrence. They have Kayvon Thibodeau, Bobby Okereke, Brian Burns. You look at this matchup tonight. How do you think this game plays out?
It'll be one-sided with the Cowboys dominating, not necessarily in the scoreboard until late, if that makes sense.
Okay.
They'll be in control throughout.
They'll make some mistakes, though.
Not
finish off drives, field goals.
Whatever it is. The Giants, they'll let them hang around. The Giants will have a Malik Neighbors big touchdown or whatever it is. But the Giants can't stop Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. So their defense is going to give up points. So whatever it is, whether it's the Cowboys stall, the Giants are able to score, the game will be somewhat close in scoreboard, but you will never get a feel that the Giants are actually going to win the game, and the Cowboys eventually will completely dominate, including the scoreboard, and they'll win this game by double digits easy in the fourth quarter.
Where are you at with Daniel Jones? Is this, hey, we all saw Hard Knocks. We all knew this regime initially wasn't thrilled with Jones. They originally declined his fifth-year option. Then he had that outlier year where they won a playoff game and made the postseason, and they had to give him that contract. And we all saw what happened this year where Joe Shane was trying to trade up into the draft to get either Jaden Daniels or Drake May. Mm-hmm. Is this just, hey, Jones is the guy for the rest of the season, but you know this is the last year with Daniel Jones, or do you think there's an actual way that Jones could save his job?
Yeah, no, I do. I think it's still the idea that there's two things. One, that contract is actually somewhat reasonable now. $40 million sounds like a ridiculous amount of money, but when you look at what everybody else is making in the NFL, quarterback-wise, it's middle of the pack at best. So that's helpful in the Daniel Jones camp. I still feel like Joe Shane more than Brian Dable, but I still feel like they think he can play and they can win with him. The question that they still have is, can he stay healthy for a full year? That's the biggest issue. I know you said outlier a couple of years ago. If you look at Jones's production and the way he has played, he's been fine. The last 2 weeks, he's been good. He was awful in week 1. He was good the last 2 weeks. My concern with him is, can he stay healthy? And was he taking so many hits that his internal clock had sped up? Last 2 weeks, it hasn't. With Malik Neighbors there, he's going to put up numbers. Are they going to be spectacular? No, because that's not who he is. He's not a top 5 quarterback. He's a good to a little bit better than that quarterback. So with everything around him, you can win with.
So I can't even envision personally Jones being the starting quarterback for this team next year. Mm-hmm. How does this play out if you had to make the case, because you're more optimistic about Jones than I am, where Jones is the starting quarterback next year? And not just because, hey, they drafted someone, they didn't want to play him right away. I'm talking about legitimately they pass on a quarterback in the draft and Jones is their guy.
They win 7, 8, 9 games somewhere in that area and they wind up drafting 17, 18, 19 and they don't see a quarterback there, they're not going to take one.
Okay.
And that's part of it. You don't force it. You take a quarterback when it's there, not because you need it. That's also the same way we build rosters properly. If you just take, I need this guy, so I got to take him, that's where you make mistakes. So if the Giants find themselves in a situation where I have to take a quarterback, great. You want to be the Steelers? You want to take Kenny Pickett? How'd that help out?
Yeah.
What'd that do for your organization? Did that make you better?
Not
well. Or
well.
did that just waste 2 years? So don't do that, and I don't think the Giants are dumb enough to do that. So that's what would keep Daniel Jones there.
So as long as I think the Giants are a bad football team, but there's a difference in being bad and being embarrassing. If they're not embarrassing, I do believe John Mara wants to keep Daboll and Shane there. Mm-hmm. With that being said, if the Giants are picking in the top 5 or even the top 10, I do think they're going to try to look to move up and go get a quarterback, because Joe Shane is going to need to realize I need to buy myself more time by drafting a quarterback, and that's when teams sometimes make a wrong decision if there's not a great quarterback in the draft.
Yeah, and look, no doubt, if you wind up with 3 or 4 wins and you find yourself toward the top of the draft and you have a quarterback that you like, I think that's the part that everybody always forgets. It almost was like fantasy. Well, I got to take one, so give me one. No, give me the best one that's available. If he's not good, if he's not your franchise quarter, if you look at it and you go, this guy's okay, why the hell would you make that deal? If they have a guy at the top of the draft that they like and they're near it and they want to go get it, they will be proactive. Mm-hmm. He will be aggressive. Joe Shane is still there, which I would imagine this regime stays in place because I think Mara wants some stability and I think he believes in both of these guys. But again, depends how the season plays out. You're a bumbling mess and you're a disgrace. It's kind of hard to go with it.
Week 1 and week 2 performances.
You got to be careful. So, if he stays, will he be aggressive if he has the opportunity and there's a guy there that he wants? 100%. I'm not sold that he's going to be up at the top of the draft because I still feel like this is a team that's going to be a pain in the ass and is going to be a team that wins 7-8 games.
Oh, you think they're going to win 7 or 8 games?
I do. I really do. I think they're on the road that they're better than people give them credit for because they can win the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Their offensive line is good. Their defensive line is good. When you win the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball week in and week out, you give yourself opportunities to win football games.
Just do me a favor here because I'm curious by this. I'm actually kind of startled here because I'm not used to you being this positive about this football team with the way that this team has been as of late. So right now the Giants are 1-2 to start off the season. Tonight you have them losing. Mm-hmm. Okay. At Seattle, just say win or loss.
Loss.
Cincinnati.
Loss.
Philadelphia.
Where is that game?
That game is at MetLife Stadium.
Win.
Okay. At Pittsburgh.
I think they can win that game.
Washington Commanders.
Yep.
At Carolina.
Yeah. Which is actually in Germany.
Oh, yeah. You are correct. That's a 9:30 a.m. start time. Mm-hmm. Bye week. Well, sometimes you can lose a bye week, but let's say that they've
lost
there.
A few.
Yeah. Who was the quarterback that got he was at Richmond. He got pulled over by the cops or something by that. I can't remember his name. I interviewed him.
Kyle Oleta?
Yes. We didn't expect him to be mentioned.
That was a rough bye week.
Yes. I don't know if that I think it may have been a bye week. Tampa Bay.
No.
At Dallas.
Nope.
Saints.
They're home for that?
Yes.
Yeah, I can see them winning that game.
Baltimore.
No.
At Atlanta.
No.
Indianapolis.
Yeah.
At Philadelphia.
Nope.
Okay. So you have 7 wins.
That's roughly where I think they are. I truly believe that. Again, when you can win the line of scrimmage, you can win some games, and there's more weapons on this team that people give them credit for. Their defense is young. The back end is young, and it's making mistakes, but the front is good. The linebackers are good, and Drew Phillips has actually been very good if he could stay healthy. The rookie that they picked up, he's been great. Offensively, there's some weapons. Are they going to blow you out? Are they going to score 40 points a game? No. But they're going to consistently score because Malik Neighbors is legit.
Yeah.
And Daniel Jones, for, again, all the mistakes and all the... We like to make fun of him just because it's easy, because he's goofy looking and he plays into the part. He still throws a good ball. He still makes proper decisions. His numbers, again... And this is maybe a little personal for me, Trevor Lawrence is looked at as a generational talent where no one questioned his contract. And now, you know what? Maybe we should have waited a little bit. The guy's numbers are exact to Daniel Jones, and he's played more than he has because Jones has been hurt.
Yeah, and they both won a playoff game.
What exactly am I missing? Jones has been inconsistent early in his career. Since then, when he's healthy, he's been consistent. It's just been consistently above average. It's not great. It's above average.
It is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll take a timeout. When we come on back, UNLV says no to the Pac-12. What's cooking the rest of the way with the Pac-12? We'll get into that on the other side. Update time first. Here he is, El Capitan, Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
Zach, we're sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Protect your home and auto. Save when you bundle. Get a quote. Progressive.com. CeeDee Lamb Cowboys looked out of sorts against the Ravens. Fell into a 22-point hole before they dropped back-to-back games. And Dallas looking to rebound against the Giants tonight. A team they've beaten 13 out of 14. Lamb knows players on the field, they got to step up to right this ship.
We got to take it upon ourselves. The coaches are going to, they've done their job of preparing us for the situation, and it's on us to execute. Obviously, the thing they can do is game plan for us, put us in position, line us up, tell us where to go, what gaps to fill, what routes to run, to be physical, all these other things. But at the end of the day, when we get between those lines, it's on us.
Baseball, a couple of teams want those final wild card spots. The Royals able to come from behind, beat the Nationals 7-4. Tigers rally in the 8th inning. They beat the Rays 4-3. So those two remain tied for the final two wild cards in the American League. One of the final, the Brewers took out the Pirates 5-2. How about the White Sox refusing to go down? They don't want that record to break with the 1962 Mets. 120 losses. They're even with them, but looking for their third straight win as they lead the Angels 6-0 in the 5th. Cardinals and Rockies tied at 2. They head to the 2nd. Rangers and A's final game at the Coliseum. No score, top of the 1st. I'm Marco Belletti.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Infinity Sports Network. That's Infinity Sports Network to follow us on Instagram.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
This portion of the show is sponsored by the new 2025 Hyundai Tucson Hybrid that has class-leading advanced safety features like the available blind spot view monitor to make your ride more enjoyable. It is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Damien Harris going to stop by at 4:20 p.m. Eastern, 1:20 p.m. Pacific from CBS Sports HQ, the former Alabama running back and also New England Patriot and Buffalo Bill running back as well. Tom Hannifan, who is the host of State of State on the Believe Podcast Network, will join us at 5:20 p.m. Eastern, 2:20 p.m. Pacific. We will touch on some things in the Big Ten, including the Penn State-Illinois matchup this Saturday. So from now until July 2026, the Pac-12 must get 8 members to be reestablished as a legitimate conference that can move forward and participate in college football. That will eventually happen, but it is kind of crazy how many schools are saying no, and it illustrates a point going back to yesterday when I was asked, hey, can the Pac-12 be viewed as a Power 5 conference once again? And I said, absolutely not. The best they could dream of is to be that 5th conference champion and have the inside track each and every year where you know the big boy conferences, the SEC, the ACC, the Big Ten, and the Big 12. Those 4 spots automatically will get the bye always, and then you have that 5th spot that still has a seat at the table for the 12-team college football playoff, whoever wins the conference championship. But I even said yesterday that, yes, you would think the Pac-12 would have a leg up, but they're not even necessarily guaranteed to be better than, let's just say, the American Athletic Conference. So as we know, there was the Tupac with Oregon State and Washington State. As of late, we saw Boise State, California State. You had Fresno State. You had Colorado State, San Diego State, and Utah State. So you had Boise State, Fresno State, Colorado State, San Diego State, and Utah State joined the Pac-12. So that ended up getting you to 7 schools, and Utah State was the one that happened the other day. So you're at 7, you need 1 more. And we already knew that the American schools said, no, we're going to stay put. So they couldn't get Memphis, Tulane, South Florida, et cetera, et cetera. Yesterday, Air Force said thanks, but no thanks. And also UNLV said thanks, but no thanks. So the Pac-12 can't even get UNLV when even they saw Utah State join this along with the other schools that we were just talking about. So now it's like, where are you going to go? Like, can you poach a Conference USA school? Sure. That's definitely a possibility. There will be someone that will take the bait to get to 8. Like, I don't think this is going to be something where if, let's say, you're a Boise State fan, a Colorado State fan, a Fresno State fan, or a San Diego State fan, you're going to be sitting back and saying, wow, or even a Utah State fan, hey, we joined the Pac-12 and we never really got it off the ground. One of these lesser conferences, smaller conferences, will have at least one school that probably has no right to be in this Pac-12 and this rebranded Pac-12 they will get the sympathy, pity invite. Like, hey, we need you. We're playing pickup basketball at the JCC. We may have called about 35 other people, but they all said no. But we only got 4 guys. We need a 5th to run a game of 5-on-5. So you're our 36th invite. Do you want the invite? Well, I got no plans on a Saturday morning. I got nothing to do. So I'll end up playing even though you asked 35 other people before me. So someone will eventually take it. But that just kind of shows you where we're at right now. And that's why I know we're on in Boise. Even though that was 2 weeks ago, a big day for Boise, I was like, it's nice, but it wasn't the same meeting as what it was 4 or 5 years ago. This is like the best of the rejects, right? Like that's what the American Athletic Conference is. That's what the Pac-12 is right now. And I say that as someone that attended a university that is in one of these reject conferences. When I was at Temple, Mike Oresco, the former commissioner of the American Athletic Conference, used to call them the Power Six. Like, it's smart marketing, but no one actually viewed you in the same breath at the time of the then Pac-12, the Big 12, the Big 10, the SEC, and the ACC. There's still a spot for you to compete, but just getting behind the brand of the Pac-12 isn't really that attractive. And if you disagree with me, and hey, it's better than probably where you were in the Mountain West, but if you disagree with me, it's like go ask Memphis, Tulane, South Florida why they elected to not leave the American Athletic Conference. Or go ask UNLV, hey, why didn't you join the Pac-12 after Utah State did? Or go ask the Air Force Academy why they didn't join the Pac-12 as well. So they're going to form their conference. It could still be a competent conference that could maybe at times pull off an upset against the big dogs. We've seen that before. But is it going to be a conference that nationally we're all going to be excited for? No, it's not. Because just to get to 8 already has had more road bumps and many speed bumps than probably what the Pac-12 thought it was going to be. They were not expecting all these American schools, American Athletic Conference schools to say no. They were not expecting UNLV to say no. They'll eventually get someone else to say yes. But it's like, where are we going now in this game of college football when it's really the haves and the have-nots? It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll take a timeout when we come on back. Stu's got a bunch of quarterbacks for me. I will tell you what we need to see from those quarterbacks moving forward. Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
And away we go, hour number 2 of our radio program. That's right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Damien Harris, former Alabama running back, Roll Tide, going to stop by, and we'll roll through our show 20 minutes from now. And Tom Hannifan will join us as we'll chat a little Penn State football and some other happenings in the Big Ten at 5:20 p.m. Eastern, 2:20 p.m. Pacific time today. But before we do that, Stu has a bunch of quarterbacks for me. I think like 10 to 15 quarterbacks. And we've seen some things from these quarterbacks through the first 3 weeks of the season. Some good, some more than what we expected, and then some bad from those quarterbacks. So Stu's going to give me the quarterback, and I'll give you my quick thoughts on what I need to see from that quarterback the rest of the way. So what do we got cooking here, Stu?
All right, let's start with Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts.
I need to see him stop turning over the football. Because I know our Kenny Pickett pal, I think it was Chris in California, who has called me a bunch and said last year, out of nowhere, that the Eagles should trade for Kenny Pickett, and I thought it was ridiculous, and they ended up doing so. He made a good point, even though he was crazy by saying Kenny Pickett should start over Jalen Hurts. It was Jalen Hurts is turning over the football too much. So I need to see Jalen Hurts still be aggressive, but be calculated and not be reckless. Just like Nick Sirianni, there's a difference in being aggressive and reckless. Like Nick Sirianni was reckless on Sunday and his team won in spite of him by those decisions to go for it at the end of the first half when the risk did not outweigh the reward, and then also to start the second half as well when he did the same thing once again. The same could be said for Jalen Hurts, where Jalen Hurts is making some stupid decisions, especially when they get in the red zone, and he's turning the ball over when they've been moving the ball and matriculating the ball down the field. I need him to protect the football better. So that's why I start with Jalen Hurts.
What about Hurts' NFC East counterpart, Dak Prescott?
I need him to put the team on his back. That's the only way Dallas is going to make the playoffs this year. I know CeeDee Lamb has to play better. I know Micah Parsons is a really good player in this league. But let's just be real. Dak Prescott has to go earn that money that's already getting paid his way. He needs to go have one of those great statistical seasons where you aren't failing to show up for the first half of a big game at home. You need to go play better than what you're probably capable of, because this team did not get better this year. And this team needs, with how much they pay that quarterback and also CeeDee Lamb, they got to make the playoffs. I don't think they will, but if they are going to, Dak has to find a way to go put the team on his back.
What about the currently injured Jordan Love?
NFC Championship game. That's what I need to see. The Packers have survived this stretch, assuming he comes back this weekend. They have survived this stretch without Jordan Love, where they won 2 games without him, and they actually lost 1 with him. Now, that's not me saying, hey, Malik Willis needs to play over Jordan Love. That would be stupid. But this is a team that has a good chance to win this division this year. I know most have picked the Detroit Lions, but this is a team in the Green Bay Packers that surprised people last year by making the playoffs and also winning a playoff game. Now you got to advance this thing moving forward. And I look around at the NFC, Eagles 2-1, the Lions, they are 2-1 as well. The Niners are 1-2. Like we've all seen the top 3 teams, the perceived top 3 teams in the NFC, have human moments through the first 3 weeks of the season that show there are some vulnerable moments with those rosters, and there's ways that those teams can get picked off. I'm looking at who could be the 4th best team in the NFC if those are the thought to be 3 best teams. And I see Green Bay and I say, why can't it be them? With Hafley as the defensive coordinator now coming over from the head coach of Boston College. And then on offense, you got Josh Jacobs and you got 3 wide receivers that I don't know if any of them are number 1 wide receivers in this league, but it's a good wide receiving core. And Jordan Love has the ability to be the best quarterback in the NFC. So I got to see them move this thing forward and get to an NFC championship game. And I think it's very possible for them to do so this year.
He's got the Bills off to a 3-0 start. Josh Allen.
MVP of the league. I that was my pick before the year. Josh Allen, win the MVP. I think he'll win the AFC East. And I'll take it a step further. Have your Peyton Manning moment this year, where early on in Peyton Manning's career and Tom Brady's career, Brady got the best of Manning. And Brady won 3 Super Bowls. And in big games, Manning early on would crap the bed up against Tom Brady. The 3 interceptions to Ty Law, finding Rodney Harrison. There were moments like that. And then eventually, number 18 broke through and got past TB12. Now the Tom Brady in football is Patrick Mahomes. And you have a guy like Josh Allen that has great statistical seasons, is someone that, is a top 3 quarterback in the league. Right now, I think the second best quarterback in football. You get rid of Stephon Diggs. This is now a Buffalo team. Last year was 52 guys, and then they had to deal with the feelings of Stephon Diggs. Now it's go on out there and be playing in the Super Bowl, be an MVP this year, and show everyone, hey, you doubted me going into this season. You doubted our team. I'm one of those few guys in the league that could wear a Superman cape and carry my team, even when you take away what for a while was my number 1 weapon in Stephon Diggs, but that met an expiration date.
What about the 2-time defending Super Bowl champion, Patrick Mahomes?
I'm going to answer this question in a way that I don't think it's intended for me to answer it. Because the question is, what do we need to see from these quarterbacks? I need to see someone pick off Patrick Mahomes. All right? I need to see someone beat Patrick Mahomes. Because through the first 3 games of the season, he's not played well. Statistically, he is asking for someone to prevent the Chiefs from three-peating. Quite frankly, the last 2 years, he's been asking for someone to defeat Kansas City and not have them win Super Bowls. He has not been even playing at his best, and it's still better than what anyone else has to offer because everyone gets mentally bleeped by this guy. And that's just the reality of the situation. And I lived that for 20 years when my guy was doing that. Even when he wouldn't play at his best, it was still better than everybody else. So I need someone this year to prevent Mahomes from winning. Because I would like to see someone other than Kansas City win this year. Like if Kansas City wins this year, I'm not irate. I like Spags. I like Drew Tranquill. Mahomes is awesome. Kelsey is awesome. Andy Reid, who doesn't love a big fella that loves to eat hamburgers, right? Cheeseburgers. Well, we know coach isn't skimping on the cheese, let's be real. But he hasn't been playing great. He even said to me last year at the AFC Championship game, he was a game manager. Think about that. If Tom Brady ever said he was a game manager, people would say, see ya, Brady's not that good. It's a system. It's a system. Mahomes said he learned how to be a game manager this past year. So if he's not going to be elite Patrick Mahomes, and it's easier said than done, someone's got to step up, and someone's got to stop this Chiefs run for at least this year. Not the way that you intended that, right?
Yeah, definitely. Someone who signed a massive contract this offseason, Trevor Lawrence.
Stop the bleeding. That's how low of a bar it is. That Jaguars team looks terrible. Trevor Lawrence looks terrible. And there is a disconnect right now with Press Taylor and Doug Peterson as a duo and their quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. And they just paid the quarterback, so the coaching staff is going to get fired. Whether that's both Doug and Press Taylor, or just Press Taylor, and then they keep Doug for another year, we'll have to wait and see. But I'm kind of the line of thinking that Jacksonville will have a new coach next year. Trevor Lawrence has to find a way to get through this stuff. He's paid. He was paid way too soon, but he's just got to find a way to stop the bleeding. And at the end of the year, I don't think they're making the playoffs, but we can look back and go, okay, it was a terrible start that derailed their season, but they found a way to salvage it. Stop the bleeding, Trevor.
What about the number 1 pick in the draft, Caleb Williams?
Don't get killed. That's like, I'm just going to say it bluntly like that. I think he could be a really good quarterback in this league, but he's going to make a ton of mistakes this year because that offensive line stinks. And even though they have good weapons there, they're putting way too much on his plate. So I just hope we don't look at Caleb Williams like, you remember Joe Burrow his first year? He got hurt early on. I just hope there's not a big injury to Caleb Williams because, man, that offensive line is, as Charles Barkley would say, is terrible. 4-letter-word knucklehead.
What about the man that used to be the Bears quarterback, now with the Steelers, Justin Fields?
Take the Steelers to the playoffs and show that you're the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers next year. That's what I want to see from Justin Fields. I'm rooting for Justin Fields because I think there is a good upside. Not a great upside, but a good upside with Justin Fields. And I thought more so of Chicago was the organization rooting him. I still don't know if he's great individually, but I do think he could be a good, competent quarterback in this league.
He's got the Vikings off to a 3-0 start. How about Sam Darnold?
I got to apologize. I do. First 3 games of the season, I've been very impressed with Sam Darnold. Now, he has to stay healthy. Had a little scare last week. But I would like to see him put that team in the postseason. And if he does, that becomes a fascinating conversation. Because Sam Darnold's still young. They just used a top 10 pick on J.J. McCarthy, who's now out for the year with that meniscus injury. I don't know how you sit Sam Darnold next year. You don't have Sam Darnold on that team next year starting at quarterback if he continues to play like this and he has that team in the postseason. So I would like to see Sam Darnold turn the direction of his career around because so far it's been synonymous with 2 things, seeing ghosts and being the quarterback that got mono. Now let's have a tangible moment where you do have success on the field rather than us just making fun of you.
What about one more NFC North quarterback in Jared Goff?
Be clutch on 3rd downs and take Detroit to a place they've never been before. Take them to the Super Bowl and go win the Super Bowl. And we've seen the formula with this team. There's going to be some mistakes by Jared Goff. You got to be a little bit better than a game manager. run the football a lot with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, and then eventually on third downs like we saw the other week, you're going to have to step up and make a big play, and you got to come through and you got to deliver, because this is a team in a year where I don't think there's many great teams. Detroit can be one of those teams that's standing on the podium with the Lombardi Trophy in hand.
What about the quarterback of the 1-2 49ers, Brock Purdy?
I think he's a lot better than what people give him credit for, but he's got to be the man this year. This is the year. It was quicker than what we thought, but this is the year where Brock Purdy needs to put his fingerprints on this franchise. Ayuk, slow start. Debo, hurt. McCaffrey, what is he, in Germany, seeing an Achilles specialist? So I don't even know if he's going to play this year. This is the year where Brock Purdy has to show, okay, I'm more than just a guy that benefits from the system. I am a legitimate franchise quarterback in this league.
Another surprising 3-0 start, Geno Smith and the Seahawks.
I'm going to say Geno. I want to see Geno make the case for why he should keep his job. He has 1 year left on the contract after this year. You could do better than Geno Smith, but you could also do a lot worse, which is something I never thought I would say years ago. But 2 years ago, he had a really good season. Last year, he was fine, but he wasn't better than what he was the previous year. But you're in a situation where as long as Kenneth Walker is healthy, you have a solid running back. Charbonnet's not a bad backup either. And you got 3 really good wide receivers. And McDonald, they've been responding to his coaching coming over from Baltimore, who's a young, energetic coach in this league on the defensive side of the ball. For Geno, it's make me at the end of the year not have this 3-0 start be the highlight, and they got to play better competition. Make me say, okay, I actually want to see you be the guy next year again, instead of, okay, who should we maybe go trade for? Who maybe should we go move up in the draft to go get?
All right, and last one coming off of his great Monday Night Football performance, Jana Daniels.
Continue to bring the hope back for the Washington Commanders. That has been a fan base that has been tortured. That has been a fan base that has been beaten down. And that has been a fan base that, quite frankly, has stopped caring about their football team for a while. Now Daniel Snyder's out. Josh Harris is in. You have the looks of a stellar young quarterback. It's only 3 games in, but it's really exciting. At the end of the season, even if they don't make the playoffs, I want him to be healthy, and I want him to have more performances like what we saw up against the Bengals. Because if they do that, there's going to be some real excitement that comes on back with, at a time, one of the more dedicated and passionate fan bases that the NFL has had to offer. All right, this is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network, talking about excitement. We got a great matchup on Saturday. I cannot wait for Saturday night. Alabama, as they welcome in the Georgia Bulldogs, a rematch of the SEC championship game from a year ago, as Alabama got the best of Georgia and gave Georgia the boot from making the college football playoffs and trying to go back to back to back as national champions. We will preview that game and touch on a few other NFL and college storylines with the former Alabama running back, and also played in the NFL for the Buffalo Bills and started his career with the New England Patriots. That's Damien Harris, who will join us on the other side. Football is back, and what better way to celebrate than winning some cash with Sleeper Picks? Sleeper Picks is a fantasy game, but you could win real money. Just pick more or less than at least 2 player stats. If your picks are right, you win. You can pick up to 8 players to win up to 100 times your money. And Sleeper has a couple huge offers to kickstart the football season. For new users, Sleeper will match your first deposit with up to $100 credit to your account. If you've already played, Sleeper's got discounted player projections for you every week of the season. So download the Sleeper app now and use promo code SCORE, that's S-C-O-R-E, and your first deposit will be doubled with the credit up to $100. What are you waiting for? Download Sleeper today and use code SCORE for a credit up to $100 match on your first deposit. That's my promo code, SCORE. Must be 18 years in most states and in state where it is legal. Promo code and other restrictions apply. Visit sleeper.com. Please wager responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-426-2537 for help. Paid for by Blitz Studios.
You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We know the huge game in college football this weekend is Alabama hosting Georgia. Let's go out to the guest line right now. Welcome in a two-time national champion for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Also played in the NFL with the New England Patriots and the Buffalo Bills. And that, of course, is Damien Harris, who is now an analyst for CBS Sports HQ and HQ's new Saturday morning college football show, which is CBS Sports HQ's college football pregame show, and it starts every Saturday at 9 a.m., and fans can watch on the CBS Sports app across their connected devices as well on Samsung TV Plus and Roku. And Damien Harris, with the very nice hat, joins us right now on the Zach
Appreciate
Gelb
it.
Show.
I figured Coach Saban would approve of the straw hat next to the logo for Bama Georgia week. So listen, I'm in the spirits. This is a big weekend, so I'm already juiced up and ready to go.
Yeah, I was gonna say when I saw you as we were ready to introduce you, I'm like, oh, did you go to Saban's house and get that out of a storage box or something like that?
Well, listen, I learned a lot from Coach Saban, and hat game is one of them. So I've had this in my rotation for a little while. Shout out to him because, like I said, he paved the way in a lot more ways than just on the football field. So taking a page out of his book.
What was it like to get recruited by the legendary Nick Saban?
It was unbelievable. I mean, I remember I had an at-home visit with him at my house, and the whole time he was talking, I just sat and thought to myself, oh my God, Nick Saban is in my living room in literally small town Richmond, Kentucky. middle of nowhere. I mean, somewhere where not a lot of people had come from and, made it to the next level, whether it be sports or, really anything. It's a small town and people don't get out much, and there's not a whole lot to be super excited about at times. But to have Coach Saban in my living room, to have him come visit me at my high school, man, it was such a surreal moment. It was something that you see on movies when you see these big time coaches go and visit these kids at their high schools, and like all the students are like saying like, "Oh my God, Nick Saban's in the office!" Like, "Oh my God!" Like, I actually was fortunate enough to live that, so it was an incredible experience. We all know Coach Saban was a larger than life figure, so any opportunity I had, to spend time with him, to see him, obviously to be recruited by him, I was just in awe that, I was in such a position to have somebody like that want me to come play for their program and want me bad enough to come visit me in my own living room. So it was quite a treat.
Yeah, we have an image of Nick Saban, right? And then I've seen videos of him on his recruiting visits and everywhere that breaks that image. Like, did he dance with your family? That's one of my favorite videos, when he's dancing with everyone's family. Right. I wouldn't expect that from Coach.
To be honest, just as much of shock as I was in, so was my mom, and so were the people that were there. So we literally were just like sunken into our couch, and we made sure we had some oatmeal cream pies for him, and made sure that he was going to be nice and full, so he wouldn't get in a bad mood. But other than that, man, we just sat there and just literally reflected. I couldn't tell you a single thing he said from that meeting. I'm sure if I called my mom and asked her right now, she'd have no idea either. But we were in such awe that the Nick Saban was sitting in our living room asking me to come be a part of his program. So there was no cha-cha slide, there was no Cupid shuffle, but it was like a giant walking into our house. So we were just very just in awe, and just as one of Coach Saban's favorite lines, we were just glad to be there.
Yeah, right. Damien Harris here with us from CBS Sports HQ, the former Alabama Crimson Tide running back. Also played in the NFL with the Patriots and the Bills. So Kalen DeBoer, the new head honcho at Alabama, replacing Nick Saban. What have been your early impressions of Coach DeBoer?
That the standard hasn't changed. This is still the University of Alabama where champions are made. And that's the goal for this team. There is no, let's take a year to fill ourselves out, how we're going to be after Nick Saban. No, Kalen DeBoer has come in and he's led this team, and they've done a lot better than what in my opinion, was to be expected. I know people look at the USF game and think, they were looking a little sluggish until they broke through in the fourth quarter. That comes with having a new head coach. That comes with getting new players in the transfer portal. That happens when you got guys that leave and go other places for the transfer portal. So I think that he's just done a phenomenal job of keeping the guys that are in the locker room focused on the task at hand, which is winning football games every single weekend. They're undefeated, and that's the goal. You got to go 1-0 every single week. Week 1, they couldn't worry about Georgia. Week 2, they couldn't worry about Georgia. They had to worry about Wisconsin and USF and the teams that they played before. And I think that Kalen DeBoer is doing a great job of that. I think that he has made Jalen Milroe leaps and bounds better than what he has been before. Leaps and bounds. And when you've got a guy that is that dynamic, that's that talented, has game-breaking ability like Jalen Milroe has, and then you put him with an offensive mind like Kalen DeBoer, I mean, the magic is happening right before our eyes. Jalen Milroe, 2 touchdowns in the air, two touchdowns on the ground. I mean, that's almost a given right now. And that's because Kalen DeBoer is putting him in situations to be a successful quarterback, much like he did for Michael Penix. It's all about how can DeBoer scheme up for who his players are and for what his team needs. And he's got a team full of playmakers. So he's letting Jalen Milroe, he's giving him the reins and letting him run this offense. And I think that the confidence that he's showing in Jalen Milroe is evident in how he's playing. He's standing in the pocket. He's throwing the ball a lot more. He's a lot better whenever they have designed runs. He carries the ball much better. He's got much better ball security than he's had in the past. So when you've got such a dynamic guy like that at quarterback, at the leader of your team, you give him the reins. You put him in possession to do what God blessed him to do. And for those 2 specific reasons, that's why I love to see what Kalen DeBoer is doing. I've talked to a lot of guys that I played with, some guys that coached me at Alabama, and everybody has just been super, super thrilled to see that, the legacy that we worked so hard to build and the standard that we set year in and year out, It hasn't dipped. It hasn't faded. They're doing things a little bit differently now. The head coaching office might look a little bit different, but at the end of the day, like I said at the beginning, this is still the University of Alabama where champions are made. And we're going to see that on display against Georgia. This is going to be their first real test of, is this the same Bama standard? Is this the Bama way that we've all known and loved? Yes, it's different with Kalen DeBoer at the helm, but are the values, the principles, the foundation of the organization still the same? There's not a better test for Alabama than against Alabama B, which is what Kirby Smart has created in Georgia.
It's a great point that you bring up, because I think a lot of people go into this game where they say, okay, this is a moment for Kalen DeBoer and Jalen Milroe to prove themselves that Alabama isn't going anywhere. But also on the Georgia side, hey, this was the school last year. I know the coaches changed that knocked you out from getting back into the college football playoff. And also Georgia's coming off a game where they only beat Kentucky by 1 point. So there's a lot on the line for both teams early on in this one.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. Who has beaten Georgia in the past 2 years? It's only been one school.
Yeah.
It's only been one team. It's the University of Alabama, and they know that, and Kirby knows it. Kirby knows that this is personal for him, it's personal for his players, it's personal for his team, because again, Kirby is a guy with the Alabama pedigree. What he brought to Alabama's program, he took that and he implemented that in Georgia, and he made sure that everybody on his staff, all of his he's trying to make sure all of his players are following that if they would stop doing ridiculous things behind the wheel of vehicles, which is not funny at all.
Sure.
It's very serious. They need to clean that stuff up. But Kirby is trying to take what he did at Alabama and what he provided that made the culture what it was and bring that to Georgia. He's done that. And so now when you look at Georgia, they look very similar and very reminiscent to the Alabama teams that I played for. They're nasty on defense. They got a great front seven. They're great on the offensive line. They got a great quarterback. They've got great skill players. They can run the ball. I mean, Georgia clearly brings in the best talent every year, but they're still the little brother to Alabama. Don't get me wrong. They're still the little brother, and Kirby knows that. So it's personal. This is going to be personal for both teams. A lot of people have a lot to prove, just like Jalen Milroe has to prove that he's still going to continue on this upward trajectory. Well, Carson Beck, who I'm pretty sure came into this season as the Heisman favorite, or at least one of the favorites, he's not looking like that Heisman favorite right now. So he's got something to prove. ETN, I look at him as a guy who missed some time early in the year because of disciplinary actions. That's another guy. There's something to prove. So this is a big game for a lot of reasons. This is a clash of two titans in college football, but at the same time, these are two teams that are the best teams with the best players, with the best coaches who both have something to prove. And that's when you get your best games. When guys are going out there, it's two fighters walking into a boxing ring, two men walk in, only one's going to walk out. Because it's personal and because there's something on the line. And that's what everybody's going to see Saturday night at Bryant-Denny, 6:30. Get your popcorn ready.
I got to follow up on one thing you said, because with Saban no longer being there and Georgia winning 2 out of the last 3 national championships, I think a lot of people believe that Georgia has moved past Alabama. You still said Georgia's little brother. Explain that a little bit.
Because what did you just say? 2 out of the past 3 years. I mean, granted, this is a business of what have you done for me now? So I definitely understand that. Production-based business, what is your most recent success? I get that. But let's not forget that the reason why Georgia is what it is because of Alabama, because Kirby Smart was at Alabama, because Nick Saban paved the way for somebody like Kirby Smart to come in and bring what he has to the table and then take that mixed with what he learned from Nick Saban, what he learned from coaching guys like Minka Fitzpatrick, Reuben Foster, the guys that chose Alabama, and then he took that to Georgia. Now, of course, hats off to Kirby. Much respect. They have won the national championship 2 of the last 3 years. They have built a very, very successful, dominant program, but they are not Alabama. They are not Alabama. It's plain and simple. They just are not Alabama. They do not have the pedigree that we have. They do not have the consistent level of success. People think all the time, okay, well, Alabama hasn't won a national championship in a few years. Well, those people are the same ones that watched us win 6 national championships in a time frame of maybe 11, 12 years. So that's what they expect. And obviously what I expect is for Alabama to win the national championship. So yes, if they win 9 or 10 games, don't win a national championship, don't make it to the national championship game, don't make it to the playoffs, yeah, that does look like a bust, but that's more successful than 99% of the teams in college football. So let's look at this from a totality perspective.
Gotcha.
Alabama's consistently 9, 10 wins. 6 national championships, 12 years, 2 national championships in 3 years. I mean, Georgia's making some progress, but again, they're not Alabama. Let's not forget the people who sit at home and think that Georgia has passed Alabama and is now top dog. Those are the people who have been waiting to see Alabama fall for a long, long time. Those are Georgia fans. Those are Auburn fans. Those are Ohio State fans. Those are the fans of schools who can't get it done year in and year out. For them, they'll have a national championship year, then they'll go 6-4. Oh, and then they'll make it to the playoffs, and then next year they go 7-3, and then they win a national championship here, and then no, Alabama has been national championship, runners up, national championship, runners up, national championship, bowl game, 9-win season. Let's not go crazy here. Alabama is top dog.
Damien Harris here with us. I have to ask you about another one of your former coaches, Bill Belichick. You think he's coming on back? I think he's back on the sidelines next year.
I do too, and I think that's why he's half-stepping his new gig in the media. Because listen, Bill Belichick's got a lot more in the tank to give when it comes to talking football than he's showing on Monday Night Football on the Pat McAfee show. He's got a little bit more in the tank. I think he's half-stepping into it because he expects to be on the sideline again soon. And if I'm looking at it from a holistic standpoint, I would be remiss if I didn't think that he would end up back on a sideline, because at the end of the day, look at what he's done. Look at his pedigree. Look at his resume. I mean, if I was a GM or if I was an owner of a team and Bill Belichick's name popped up, I mean, there's not many people that I would hire before him. So I know that he was looking for some jobs in this offseason. It didn't really shake out. I'm not really sure why, but don't expect that to last. Bill wants to coach, and somebody's going to want him to coach.
I know you got hurt last year, but you were in Buffalo, so you were around Damar Hamlin to see what has happened with Damar and him had that interception the other night. Just give me a thought or two on that.
Man, that's what sports is all about, bringing people together for better or for worse, to celebrate the lives of these young men who literally lay their life on the line to play a sport, to entertain these people. Again, that is what this great sport is about. The stories, the triumphs, the underdogs, the people who have a small chance to make it, but then they knock their opportunity out of the park. Well, ladies and gentlemen, look no further than Damar Hamlin, a man who literally laid his life on the line for his brothers, for his teammates, for the love of the game. And it almost cost him that very life that he sacrifices every single day. And to have the mental fortitude, the resolve, the courage, the strength, all the other attributes or adjectives you can throw in here, to have all of those, to even just step back on a football field, let alone become the starting safety, let alone be making plays, making interceptions on Monday Night Football. This story is unheard of. This is a story that we will talk about long after Damar is done playing football, just because, again, the magnitude of what happened and the way that it brought an entire base of people who love sports, who love each other, who love humans, the way it brought everybody together, the way it brought everybody to pray for one individual, to wish well for one single person. Then to see him make it through, and not just on the field, see all the things that he's doing with his foundation, see the way that he's impacting all of these universities across the country. I've seen him doing all types of things as far as getting defibrillators and getting, forgive me, I don't know exactly what they're called. AEDs?
Yes,
AEDs. That's what they're called. Yeah, AEDs, getting those, making those more accessible to teams and making them more resourceful to people. Seeing him do that kind of work while working his way back on the field to be able to make plays as a starting safety for the Buffalo Bills, one of the best defenses year in and year out, Monday Night Football. It's special, man. It is special. And granted, this isn't necessarily what sports is all about, but man, when people turn on the TV and when they watch these kids, this is what people are giving. These are what the athletes are giving. This is what makes us special as athletes, because regardless of the circumstances, regardless of what people may go through, the love of the game, the love of the brotherhood in that locker room, the love of performing in front of fans allows people to do things that are superhuman. And Damar Hamlin is absolutely a superhuman.
Last thing I'll ask you, Tua Tagovailoa, with what he's going through right now, do you think he'll continue to play and will eventually make his return to an NFL field?
I hope not. And this is not Damien Harris, the analyst. This is not Damien Harris on a podcast. This is Damien Harris, the guy that played and shared a locker room with Tua, that knows his family very well, that knows what's in his heart, what's in his family's hearts, how they surround one another, how they support one another. I hope that he shuts it down, because as somebody who is, a new husband, a new father, I've got a 6-month-old son, and, obviously I had a career-ending injury, and I see what that did to my family. I see, I remember how that affected my wife. I remember how that affected, the people who cared about me, and I would not wish that on anybody else's family. And I know that they're already dealing with it to a degree, because we have seen what has happened to Tua, unfortunately, in the past few years. So just as a brother, as a man who understands how important family is, and the people who love you and care about you, you have a real opportunity to preserve yourself, preserve your family, preserve, you can let your wife lay her head down at night and be confident that you are doing everything to preserve yourself for your kids, for your family, for the rest of your life, for yourself. So again, this is as a brother, this has nothing to do with analytics. This has nothing to do with interest in the NFL or the Miami Dolphins. But as a brother, as somebody who shared that locker room with Tua, as somebody who has shared the field with countless other brothers that play in this league, sometimes it's just time to let it go. And that time comes for all of us. Sometimes it's unexpected, but there are certain things in this life that you just cannot ignore. And I think that the situation that's going on with Tua is something that it can't be ignored any longer.
He is Damien Harris. Damien, really appreciate all the time today, and also your energy. Love the hat as well, and keep on kicking ass. You're going to be a superstar at CBS Sports HQ.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. The tide always rolls. Remember that, people. Get your roll on.
We love it. There he is, Damien Harris. He was sensational, man. Right off the gridiron, he was absolutely phenomenal. So stellar job by Damien Harris. We'll have him on again, I'm sure, coming up down the road. All righty, let's get an update. Here he is, El Capitan Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Zach, pair 1 and 2 teams for Thursday Night Football. Cowboys coming off a lopsided loss to the Saints, followed by a frantic comeback that fell short against the Ravens. Head coach Mike McCarthy, though, looking at the ground game to be a major priority for tonight.
We've played 3 games. I don't know. We got 3 quarters of 2-minute offense. I mean, so there's different things that factor in that. Number one focal point for me is our run game needs more attempts. We need to get more attempts, and we need to get in and out of concepts. And I think that in itself will help us.
Baseball, White Sox on the verge of their 3rd straight win, going to stay at 120 losses as they're all over the Angels, 7-0 in the 9th. Cardinals a 6-5 lead on the Rockies. They're in the 5th. A's in their final home game lead the Rangers 2-0. They're in the bottom of the 4th. Some finals make it 5 straight wins. 14 out of 17 for the Tigers, thanks to 2 runs in the 8th. They rallied by the Rays 4-3. Royals played at 3 in the 9th. Adam Frazier, a pinch hit go-ahead 2-run single, outscored the Nationals 7-4. So Tigers and Royals remain tied for the final 2 wild cards. The Brewers, they erased the Pirates 5-2. Still to come, Yankees get a 3rd shot to officially clinch the AL East when they take on the Orioles, and the Dodgers can wrap up the NL West with a victory over the Padres tonight. I'm Marco Belletti.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on X and like us on Facebook. Our handle is @INF Sportsnet on X and INF Sportsnet for Facebook.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Ethos Life, the easy way to get life insurance in 10 minutes, up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam and just a few health questions. Get your free quote at checkethos.com. Not available in all states. We started off with Justin Fields on the Not Just Football with Cam Hayward podcast. Justin Fields on who else tried to trade for him this past offseason.
I'm not sure of all the teams, but, there were a lot of teams that had already had, solidified quarterbacks there, and I didn't want to do that. I think Chargers was one, Ravens was another.
Ravens?
Yeah.
Or Raiders?
Ravens.
Oh, Ravens.
Yeah. Raiders, they talked a little bit. I don't know too much. Who else was in there? I don't know, but a lot of the teams, they already had solidified quarterbacks, and, they just got new contracts, so I wasn't really trying to be there because I kind of know how that shakes out. So
Yes.
Yeah, kind of makes sense. The Steelers at that destination were the best. Stu, the Raider part was weird to me because Cam Hayward thought he said Raiders when he said Ravens, which would be a good backup option for Lamar Jackson. But then when he said Raiders, he was like, yeah, I think there was like a little bit there. I don't get what the Raiders have done the last few years. They barely pursued Aaron Rodgers, and I think Rodgers would have loved to have gone there. And they could have made a move for Justin Fields, and it seems like they didn't. And now you're stuck with Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah, and the other weird part is having Luke Getsy as the offensive coordinator, who was Fields' coordinator with Chicago, and that wasn't
a great relationship.
So, I don't know, maybe if they had hired a different coordinator, maybe it would have been different, but still, it's bizarre.
No, we thought they were going to be Kingsbury there, right?
Yeah.
And then he ended up going to the Commanders.
Yeah, for a nice weekend, and then it wasn't.
The Raiders. All right, here is Rick DiPietro and Dave Rothenberg show on ESPN New York. Rex Ryan. Could the Cowboys defense be fixed?
No, 100%. I would have fixed it in a New York minute. But that being said, they couldn't pony up the money, or I would have been there.
Oh no!
And so they never ponied up, and that was why I stayed, here. No, but it's true. And you brought in a guy that was like 29th in the league his last 2 years at Minnesota. And the enthusiasm he brings, you saw when he left, he blamed the players, and I'm not going to talk to him. That's a guy that's going to inspire you. I don't know. This could go really bad for Dallas.
I love Rex. I love him. Taking shots at Mike Zimmer, taking shots at the Cowboys, and them not paying him enough. You know what, Stu? The more and more, and I've said this before, but the more and more I hear Rex Ryan, I would love to see him back in the NFL. As a DC, it'd be fun. I actually wouldn't mind if a team elected to hire him as a head coach. He seems like a great college coach. He would be an awesome rah-rah college coach, and college has now become more professional, too, with all NIL. I would love to see Rex Ryan get back on the sidelines, and this time it be in college. Let's go to Aaron Rodgers. Does he still want revenge on Sean Payton? I know the Broncos lost to the Jets last year, but he wasn't in that game because Aaron got hurt 4 plays into the season. And remember, Sean said a bunch of things about Aaron's BFF and Nathaniel Hackett.
No, that's old news, We've all said things that we'd like to take back. Some things have been said and taken out of context, I'm sure, from time to time. But I honestly haven't thought about it till you just brought it up.
A different Aaron Rodgers. That's a mature Aaron Rodgers. And here's the difference, though. He said that the right way. But on the field, if Aaron gets the best of Sean on Sunday, which is expected, he will find a way to do something that will be probably, let me go rub Sean's face in the mud a little bit. But I was actually impressed that he didn't provide another distraction. Here is Mike Silver. This is a great story on how Mike Shanahan, who is Kyle Shanahan's father, obviously, the multiple-time Super Bowl winning championship head coach, and the legendary head coach, how he's always been a fan of Brock Purdy.
There is something at 49er headquarters referred to as the Shanacam, which basically means Mike Shanahan needs to watch meetings and practice ASAP virtually.
That's awesome.
So some people think he's the shadow GM. I spent a bunch of time with him in May and June of 2022. In those conversations, I would ask about Trey Lance, of course, and Jimmy, and he kept talking about Brock Purdy because he'd seen some minicamp tape, and I was like, God, he's kind of weirdly into Brock Purdy, but, whatever. He's the 262nd pick. Now they open against the Bears. It's Trey Lance's first game as the unquestioned starter. The day before, I go to Mike Shanahan's room, and I'm sitting up there, and I'm asking him about Trey Lance, and he again brings up Purdy, and he says, when you have a guy like that in your building, you don't let him out. And I'm like, are we talking about, thinking?
Yeah.
And, so he's still got it.
That's obviously courtesy of Part of My Take. It just shows you, and it's the amazing part, with all they did to move mountains to go get Trey Lance, how quickly Kyle, and then also, I guess to this extent, Mike, really wanted no part of Trey Lance. And they fell in love with Brock Purdy. extremely quick, and it ended up working out. Here is Eli Drinkwitz, a coach at Missouri. He was on the Paul Feinbaum show on the ESPN on the Sluka situation yesterday with UNLV.
The truth of the situation is this is what's going to continue to happen because there aren't guardrails in place. There aren't rules in place, and we're having to operate in a system that there really isn't a system. This is too many times. This is too many stories that are affecting young men's future. This isn't why the game of college football was designed to be played, but the reality of it is there's a business side to it too, and I think everybody has to understand that. Look, this could have happened to a lot of different schools in a lot of different situations, and I just hate it because there's not really any rules in place that can prevent it. I saw a tweet today like, where are you going to take these complaints? There's not really anywhere that you can, and that puts everybody in jeopardy. And I hate it for everybody involved. But really the blame lies at the feet of the system in place.
He's not wrong, and there's no winners in this. I still put more of the blame on UNLV, though. Now, you could say, hey, the kid should have got the offer in writing and everything, but a coach, from the way that it seems like it did go down, said, we'll give you $100,000, and they were $88,000 short. Now, the school claims that after 3 games, he was asking for more money. So who the heck really knows? But this is a situation that there's no winners here because the kid didn't get his money, and then also a team that started off 3-0 now is without their quarterback. And finally, Caitlin Clark reflects on her rookie season after getting eliminated last night in the postseason.
There's a lot for us to, hold our heads high about. This team won 5 games 2 years ago, so we're a young group, a pretty inexperienced group, but we came together and I had a lot of fun playing with one another.
And there you go. That's a news brief on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. A quick 2 hours in the books. We got one more to play. Tom Hannifan is going to join us coming up in 25 minutes from now. He is the host of State of State on Believe Podcast Network. Does a great job talking all things Penn State football, and also is the voice of TNA Wrestling. So we will chat with him and do a bunch of Big Ten football coming up in 25 minutes from now. But first, when we come on back, Deshaun Watson didn't handle a situation the right way with the media. Surprise, surprise, surprise. How much longer are the Browns going to continue to be patient with Deshaun Watson? We'll get to that on the other side. Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
We'll talk some Big Ten football coming up in 20 minutes with Tom Hannifan, who does a great job, host of State of State on the Believe Podcast Network, and is also the voice of TNA Wrestling. Penn State, big game this weekend up against Illinois. Not the biggest game of the weekend because we do have Alabama and Georgia. Damien Harris, the former Alabama Crimson Tide running back, joined us earlier, and he still said that Georgia is the little brother to Alabama. So that was some good stuff from Damien Harris. I really enjoyed my conversation with him. Stu, when I think, or when you think, when we all think of media members that cover the Cleveland Browns,
yes.
Who's the first jolly fella that you think of?
Our good friend Ken Carman.
That is right. And I don't know if Ken's going to make it through this season. I have, from afar, listened and watched a lot of Ken Carman and Anthony Lima, and there's a lot of viral clips that are happening, and Ken looks like he's going to pop out of frustration with this football team. Now, if I had to say, and this could be a tricky one, outside of Ken and Anthony, is there a person, he doesn't necessarily cover the Browns, but he is a massive fan of the Cleveland Browns, and he is a prominent member of the media and also a dear friend to the show. Do you know who that person is who may also pop when talking about the Cleveland Browns this year? Because he has kind of become a sensation He's already a sensation with what he does for his job, but he has become a sensation for his Cleveland Browns coverage, which is just him walking into his backyard and ranting about Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns. You know who that is?
I don't think I do.
Do you need a hint?
Sure, I'll take one.
Okay, let me see. He was on the show once while he was moving. He was moving into a new home. Someone that you love and you wanted to hear what information that he had because it pertained to a very big coach that was flirting with your NBA team. Does it ring a bell?
So this person covers the NBA. An NBA person that's a Browns fan. I don't think I know this.
Sort of covers the NBA. Basketball. Covers basketball. Mainly a college guy.
Oh, Fanta.
Yes.
Yes.
John Fanta. I think he has moved to New Jersey. He runs into his backyard and he gives these talks that are passionate, and you could just feel the disgust that is just going through his entire body in these 90-second videos that he puts out. In week 1, you would have thought a family member passed away. That's how upset he was with the Cleveland Browns. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. No. And then, after their latest loss and the first half performance up against the New York Giants, Fanta said I should probably rather go apple picking. He'd rather want to go apple picking than watch the performance that the Cleveland Browns are putting on the field. So I am concerned for my friends John Fanta, Ken Carman, and Anthony Lima. But Fanta, more than anybody, I don't know Ken and Anthony's feelings on the quarterback, to be fair, but John made it clear in week 1 that Deshaun Watson just doesn't have it. He don't got it anymore. And that he's cooked, and that he's done, and that he can't play. Like, Fanta was destroying, deservedly so, Deshaun Watson. But Stu, you know me. What really gets me going, what really gets me irate, as Emmett Smith would say, what really gets you hot when he joined us in studio, is when a coach or a player tries to make it seem like they're great when they're no longer great and they fail to take any accountability. Like, it set me off the other day when Lincoln Riley is talking about like 50 running plays that they allowed, and he's like, oh, well, we covered 45 out of 50 of them like a bunch of bosses. Well, what does that mean? When you allowed Khalil Mullings to rip off like 2 50-plus yard runs and you allowed Donovan Edwards to rip off a 50-plus yard run again. Like, if I show up to my job and I have 9 segments and 8 segments I do an unbelievable job, but in the 9th one I say something that's offensive and crazy, do you think David Meredith's going to be like, well, guys, Zach had 8 great segments. Ignore the ridiculous, dumb comments that he made in the 9th segment. No, that's not how this works. James Franklin. He's also another guy, right? Where James Franklin, whenever he loses it, he never just takes it on the chin. He always makes an excuse. So I've seen the comments, and sometimes I see a comment and I go, there's no way it could be and sound as bad as it reads. And I purposely, when I saw this yesterday, elected to not listen to it. So I'm taking a chance here where I want to hear this, and it may not go the way that I think it could go. And if that's the case, all right, nothing to see here, folks. We'll move on. But if it goes the way that I think it's going to go, I'm going to do something here. I'm going to breathe in, breathe out. Because I'm a little under the weather this week. You know, I was in the Poconos where it was hot this weekend, and then I came back to New York, it was cold, and whenever it goes from hot to cold, my insides get all messed up. So I really don't want to yell. I don't want to freak out. I don't want to be like John Fanta in his backyard looking like he's about to just implode over the state of this team. I just want to hear it. And, maybe we'll just react to it peacefully. Here is the quarterback of the 1-2 Cleveland Browns in Deshaun Watson. And Deshaun Watson was asked recently if he will run more. Listen up.
See more designed runs in the game plan? I don't mean just...
For me?
Yeah.
No. I'm not going in there to ask them for more design runs. So I'm not trying. If I don't have to run, I'm not going to run. So I'm not trying to take any hits.
More design runs?
Because I'm not a running quarterback in a sense. I can make things happen, but I'm not trying to run. I'm not a running back. That's not my specialties. They signed me to throw the ball, make decisions, and be a quarterback, not a runner.
Well, this would be my follow-up. Hey, Deshaun, Zach Gelb here. Where do we want to go? The Cleveland Plain Dealer? I feel like that sounds like a good affiliation. I don't even know if that's still around. Zach Gelb here from the Cleveland Plain Dealer, whatever it's called. Deshaun, they pay you, you say, to throw the football? Well, when are we going to start seeing you throw the football well? All right? This guy's such a jackass. He really is. And I'm going to be calm. I'm not going to lose my mind. I'm not going to scream. I'm not going to yell. I just talk loud, okay? You know when I'm angry. You know when I'm going to lose my mind. This dude, what he just said, though, was basically, I'm just trying to get through my contract. I'm not going to go the extra distance to win games for this football team and for this city that believed in me when, quite frankly, they were a bunch of idiots, morons, and dopes to believe in me with what I was allegedly doing off the field. And they were so stupid that not only did they trade for me, but then they did something that no other team in the league would do, and that's give me a fully guaranteed contract. So basically, I'm getting my money either way. So if I don't have to run, I'm not going to. If they ask me to run, I'm basically going to tell them to go bleep themselves. And I am here to throw the football because I still think I'm a great thrower of the football when in reality, I've been a crap quarterback since the 2020 season because I either haven't been on the field because of my own stupidity and his own disgusting things that he's done off the field, or I haven't been healthy, or when I'm on the field, I just don't got it anymore. That is just so stupid, what I just heard. And it just shows you, not that we needed to hear it, but Deshaun doesn't get it. Like, if I was trying to teach him public relations, for example, I've always said, if the talk show stuff never worked out, or if I didn't want to become a talk show host, which I wanted to be since I was the age of 8 years old, the only two other professions that I would consider was either being a teacher or being a public relations person. I took a public relations class in college. I was the only non-PR major in the class. There was one person that did not have a degree for, or trying to get a degree for public relations. Everyone else did. I was the only one that was not trying to study public relations. I thank the professor, by the way, Professor Scott Tatter, because he realized that this was an elective. All my other friends do. On a little side note, they had to do the final assignment. I was calling Temple Villanova basketball game. He was a big basketball fan. He goes, "Oh, you're calling that? That's what you want to do for a living?" He goes, "You don't have to come on in and do the final and take the final exam." So I appreciate Scott Tatter. My friends Wes and Cole, they still remind me about it, and they're like, "Oh, you were his favorite. We can't stand you for that." But if I was in PR and I had Deshaun in my office and I said to Deshaun, "Do you think you handled that question in the way that you answered it the right way?" And he said yes. I would say, this is how you should have handled it. Will you run more for this football team? Do you feel like you need to run more? I would say, Deshaun, even if what you just said you believe, you don't say what you just said. because it's a bad look for you. And I know Deshaun Watson, the one thing he's good at is doing things that are a bad look for him. So Deshaun, this is what you should have said. I'll do whatever it takes to win football games for this team and for this city. I'll do whatever it takes to turn this thing around. Period. Stop. But when you say what you just said, which, Stu, entertain me here. Let me hear it again. You come off sounding like a jackass, Deshaun. Go ahead.
See more designed runs in the game plan. I don't mean just
For me?
Yeah.
No. I'm not going in there to ask them for more design runs. So, no. I'm not trying. If I don't have to run, I'm not going to run. So I'm not trying to take any hits.
More design runs.
Because I'm not a running quarterback in a sense. I can make things happen, but I'm not trying to run. I'm not a running back. That's not my specialties. You know, they signed me to throw the ball, make decisions, and be a quarterback, not a runner.
This man has $230 million guaranteed. That's a dude that's basically saying, I don't want to take any hits. I don't think he cares anymore. He's just trying to get through this contract, and he knows, hey, if it doesn't work out, they still got to pay him. They still got to pay him. And that's the thing. And I give John Fanta credit to this, because he said this in week 1. You have to pay him the money regardless. I'm not saying you'll pull the rug out from underneath him right now, because you still got to see if this could work, even though most of us know it doesn't work. But at the end of this season, if it continues to look the way that it has through the first 3 weeks, I don't need to see Deshaun starting for this Cleveland Browns team in 2025 or 2026. You got to pay him that money either way. Doesn't mean you have to start him. And I'm going to go out on a limb here. It's a big, bold take by me. I haven't had a big, bold take in a while. I'm just going to say I think there's a lot better options around the league right now than Deshaun Watson. That's a sizzling hot take. Wow. Zach Gelb Show, we bring the fire. All righty, we'll take a timeout. When we come on back, we will delve into the Big Ten, a big matchup this weekend for the Penn State Nittany Lions up against Illinois. And Brett Bielema had a big win with his quarterback, Altmaier, in Lincoln, Nebraska last weekend, taking down Matt Rule and Dylan Raiola. We'll talk about that game with the Illini going up against the Nittany Lions. Also preview a little Georgia and Alabama, do a few more things as well in the Big Ten with the host of State of State on the Believe Podcast Network. That's Tom Hannifan, who's also the voice of TNA Wrestling as well. We'll come on back with Tom. But first, football is back, and what better way to celebrate than winning some cash with Sleeper Picks? Sleeper Picks is a fantasy game, but you can win real money. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if your picks are right, you win. You can pick up to 8 players to win up to 100 times your money. And Sleeper has a couple huge offers to kickstart the football season. For new users, Sleeper will match your first deposit with up to $100 credit to your account. If you've already played, Sleeper's got discounted player projections for you every week of the season. So download the Sleeper app now and use promo code SCORE, that's SCORE, and your first deposit will be doubled with the credit up to $100. So what are you waiting for? Download Sleeper today and use my promo code SCORE for a credit up to $100 match on your first deposit. That's code SCORE. Must be 18 years in most states and in state where it is legal. Promo code and other restrictions apply. Visit sleeper.com. Please wager responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-426-2537 for help. Paid for by Blitz Studios.
You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show.
We'll do some Big Ten talk right now, get into that Penn State-Illinois game as well. Also, we'll delve into the SEC with Alabama hosting Georgia this weekend, and we'll do so with the host of State of State with former Penn State and NFL DB Justin King on the Believe Podcast Network, and he's also the voice of TNA Wrestling, and you can catch Impact tonight at 8 Eastern on Access TV and TNA Plus, and that is my buddy Tom Hannifan, kind enough to join us right now. Tom, great to see you. How you been?
I'm good. It's always nice to connect with another Philly guy. The Phillies clinched, so, life is good. I watched them get shellacked by the Cubs on Tuesday night. So, it's Philly. Normal stuff.
Yeah, I am a Mets fan, even though I did live in Philadelphia.
Really?
For a while.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This I didn't know. Thanks for having me. Peace. This is news to me. Oh,
yes,
my God.
Yes. I lived in Philadelphia, went to Temple, lived there 3 years after graduating, and then made myself back home to New York City. But
I was going to wish you luck against Army tonight, but now I don't care. I just
trust me. You could wish Temple luck. I don't know if that's going to help these days, even though they got a win last weekend. Let me start you off with Penn State. So I don't usually walk in when James Franklin is a coach of a team being optimistic about a squad. But with this new format, a 12-team college football playoff, I think it's designed for Penn State to get in. I thought going into the year, Penn State could be the third best team in the Big Ten. So more optimistic than most years in the past. They beat the snot out of West Virginia. Impressive win. I'm like, see, this is the Penn State team that I thought they can be. But then they followed up with an performance against Bowling Green. I know they had an off week and then they blew out Kent State. What is Penn State through the first 3 weeks of their season, in your opinion?
Balance offensively. Now, it has been a little Jekyll and Hyde, weeks 1 and 2. Completely agree with you. The road game against West Virginia, even Pat McAfee was saying, man, these guys are going to win the national championship. I didn't feel that way. I felt like it was an impressive opening win against a Big 12 team that had a good end of 2023, but it still remains to be seen what West Virginia is going to be. Bowling Green was odd in that I think we've all seen enough tape on Bowling Green now that they could plausibly win the MAC and could even be a G5 team, something like that that could really make some noise. And Connor Bazelak and that receiving core is quite good and gave Penn State some trouble. You hope that during the bye week that some of the little things would get cleaned up in terms of pass protection and penalties. The penalties, unfortunately, continued against Kent State, but unfortunately, Kent State is maybe the worst team in FBS, no disrespect. So we're going to find out this weekend, honestly. Against Illinois, you're going to find out whether or not that explosive offense under offensive coordinator Andy Kotelnicki is going to be able to hold up against legitimate Big Ten competition. And the thing I've been encouraged about, it's what I came back to there, is the balanced offense. Every game this year, both the pass and the run have had over 200 yards. So if Illinois chooses to take away one, does the other flourish? That's what I'm looking for this weekend.
I did think the Illinois and Nebraska game was going to be closer than what Vegas thought last week. It was an 8.5-point spread in favor of the Cornhuskers. This week, though, I think it started out at 17.5, and it's already up to nearly 20 points at 19.5. What type of game do you kind of expect this to play out? Illinois coming off a big win. People liking Bielema. They're liking their quarterback Altmaier as well, but now you're going into Happy Valley. How do you see this game playing on out?
Here's the thing. I went to the game that went 9 overtimes. I don't believe anything in terms of what the spread could be, the over. I don't care what any of it is. Brett Bielema likes to play old school football, run the ball well, and play good run defense. And this team so far has proved that they can do that. They held Nebraska to under 3 yards per carry, and they caused a lot of penalties for Nebraska as well. They made it be Dylan Raiola versus the world, and he's a freshman. You can understand those things being a limitation for Matt Rule and company. Yeah, I think, one, if weather is a factor this weekend, you're going to see the run game be dominant for both teams. Illinois has a 250-pound running back in Caden Fegan, so I think that's something they can lean on. And Luke Altmaier looks very different than the guy who threw 4 interceptions last year against Penn State. He threw 4 touchdowns last week and led the team to an overtime victory on the road in Lincoln. So I think Altmaier, one, has weapons that he can utilize in Franklin and Bryant at wide receiver. He seems a little bit more poised. He seems a little bit more confident. However, if Penn State's front seven, which has looked the part so far this year, if they can make him uncomfortable, maybe put the game on him and take away the run, I think that's going to be the best bet for Tom Allen and the defense. And then offensively, Kotelnicki, I understand all the explosivity and the plays that we see from Drew Aller, and there's a lot of hype about what number 15 can do, but this is a bread and butter, run the football type of offense. So if Penn State can stick to that pedigree, that identity, that's the thing, man. For the first time in years, Penn State has an offensive identity. If they can stick to that, they'll win.
How do you think we're talking about Drew Aller at the end of the season, Tom Hannifan?
I know there's a lot of people that think he could be a top 10 pick, a top 5 pick, maybe even the number 1 overall pick in the 2025 NFL draft. I sincerely hope that Drew Aller returns to Penn State for 2025. Selfish reasons, yes. I think Penn State fans were extremely hard on him for his first year as a starter last year. I think Penn State fans expected Sean Clifford's out. We're going to see a huge upgrade. He's a 5-star. He's going to be the second coming. Shocking that didn't happen for a kid who was 18, 19 years old. And now all these little elements that were issues in his game last year, he's started to put together. He has changed his body to the point that he is a credible running threat. You're not going to line him up like he's Lamar Jackson, but he's definitely going to be able to get you first downs, and he's been productive in terms of scoring with his legs. He's making good decisions, just like he did last year, protected the football, and now he's able to show off his arm strength. So I think Aller, there's going to be a lot of people at the end of the year thinking, oh, man, this guy can go out. Or there's going to be people saying, he's good, but it's the running game, it's the defense, something like that. I think one more year at Penn State, and we will absolutely be talking about him as the number 1 overall pick in 2026.
I'm going to tell you, man, coming up in the future years, this draft class, I don't know if there's a generational talent, but moving forward after that, Raiola looks the part. You got Arch Manning as well, Nico Iamaleava right now at Tennessee. There's some young quarterbacks in college football right now, and it's good for us that we still have to see them play another few more years.
Yeah, I mean, and Evan Simon at Temple had 5 touchdowns last week. I mean, come on.
Man, you're just trying to kick me when I'm down, Tom Hannifan.
One of my closest buddies from my days at WWE is a Temple guy, so I just had to.
Yeah, no worries. Let me ask you about Franklin. I think Penn State's going to make the playoffs this year. If they don't make the playoffs, he should be fired. Do you share that same sentiment?
I don't think he will be fired. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
His buyout is somewhere in the neighborhood of $32 million. Penn State as a community does not comprehend the ability to spend that much money for somebody who isn't there. That just hasn't happened in Penn State football. You went from Joe Paterno to Bill O'Brien to James Franklin very quickly. So the thought of the board of directors and the Penn State athletic department coming together to be said, yep, we're going to eat that amount of money, I don't see it happening. However, I think there will be outrage amongst Penn State fans if they don't make the 12-team college football playoff. I think that's absolutely justified. Will you see him fired if they don't make it? I highly doubt it. Should he be? After 10 seasons and 11 total years, I struggle with the word should. That's the thing. I'm like, I don't know. You have to ask yourself, who else is out there that you're going to get that is going to produce at a higher level for this program?
Tom Hannifan here with us. All right, let's go around some of the other Big Ten schools. Ryan Day, Ohio State, it's championship or bust for them. He gives me like fake tough guy energy from time to time. They haven't been tested yet. Their fans were celebrating Michigan losing to Texas, and Ohio State hasn't been able to beat Michigan in 3 years. Are you buying the buzz that this is the year for Ryan Day? Forget just beating Michigan, they should, but that he's going to finally go bring that school a national championship.
I was going to say, considering the way that Michigan has struggled, they better beat Michigan this year. Then it's red alert for Ohio State, no pun intended there. Here's the thing, I was just saying this about Franklin, is that, who would you get to replace Franklin?
Yeah.
Well, that question's very easily answered in Columbus because he's the offensive coordinator. I've seen that story out there before, is that did Ohio State hire Chip Kelly as an insurance policy if Ryan Day doesn't come through with a national championship, if they don't come through all the way this year. And also, one of the biggest games this weekend, hopefully it's able to happen due to the weather, and I hope people down in the Southeast are being as safe as humanly possible, but Alabama versus Georgia doesn't have the same feel. When you look at the two teams, the way they performed, it doesn't feel like 2 versus 4, but it is still a battle of juggernauts within the top 5. If there is any cause for concern with Georgia and Alabama coming out of this weekend, some glaring weaknesses, there is a clear path for Ohio State, and I agree with you. They haven't played anybody of really any substance so far this year, but the thing that encourages me about watching Ohio State is, at least offensively, they're not putting a lot on tape. They're going out and they're beating teams based on their ability and their talent, and they're running very basic schemes. So I love that approach from Chip Kelly and Ryan Day. Why put a lot on tape when you know you can thump people in September? So, yeah, I'd say Ryan Day would be on the hot seat if he doesn't beat Michigan and doesn't win the national championship.
All right, let me get to Oregon, now in the Big Ten. Their first 2 games were sloppy. Then they had a good game up against a familiar foe in Oregon State. A lot of hype with Lanning. I'm a big Dan Lanning fan, even though last year he lost to Kalen DeBoer twice. Is this Oregon team just going to get better as the year goes on? And this was just the first 3 weeks of the season, just some sloppy play with no preseason in college football?
I want to say the latter, because I'm still surprised at what Dylan Gabriel has been so far this year.
Yeah.
It's the thing that we're not talking enough about, is that just because it's a high-profile quarterback or high-profile transfer doesn't mean it's automatically plug and play, and this is 1,000% going to work. Caleb Williams was an anomaly, is an anomaly as an athlete. So you just don't see that very often, and especially at the quarterback position, when you go from one system to a new system, one playbook to another, that takes time to get used to. So I'm more of the opinion that it's just a matter of time for Oregon, and how convenient is it that Oregon hosts Ohio State this year? So I think that's going to be a massive game in regards to the Big Ten, and then the way everything falls within the Big Ten. Penn State, as long as they take care of business against opponents they should be right there in the mix, and they can maybe leapfrog somebody and maybe get into the Big Ten title game. Michigan and USC are still absolutely credible, but Oregon it's theirs to lose, it feels like.
How did you process this confusing Matthew Sluka situation yesterday with UNLV?
Yeah, it's so much he said, right? Like, if there was a contract, we would have seen it by now. And the conversation that I've heard on a number of different media outlets, his brother speaking for him, an agent speaking for him, but an agent is speaking for a guy that didn't have a contract, but there was money, but it was only $3,000, but he was promised $100,000. If this was a higher profile player, this would be even bigger news than it already is. I'm very much in the camp
but let's also be real, too.
Athletes.
Sorry to cut you off, but if this is a higher profile player in a bigger program, like let's say if this is Alabama, they would have just found the way to get the kid the money so he would stay on the field, whatever he was looking for.
No, and I've heard that argument, and a lot of people have then countered with the Jaden Rashada issue at Florida. It was like, well, why didn't you just pay him? So it's still the Wild West. I do think, and I do hope we get to a point where there are contracts offered to these high school kids of, hey, you're a 2-star, here's a 1-year contract. You're a 5-star, we think the world of you, here's a 4-year contract, something like that. I think if Matthew Sluka, again, was a better player, a higher profile player, and a higher profile school, it would be a bigger issue. But there's also part of me that if Sluka was truly stiffed by UNLV, this whole NIL movement was meant to be recourse for athletes. And isn't that kind of the whole point that we're trying to get to, is some sort of regulation so that kids aren't just screwed over by these gargantuan programs that are trying to take in millions of dollars. So, but again, like I was saying, I have no idea what the truth is because it's still just one side versus the other spouting stuff into the universe. It's bizarre.
What do you think is going to play out between Georgia and Alabama in Tuscaloosa? Who do you have winning that game?
And I was just thinking about this, and I was mentioning, this is a huge game this weekend, and Hurricane Helene has thrown such a wrench into everything that's occurring in the country. And I wish safety to everybody that's in that region of the country. I feel like we've seen more credible performances from the people that we expected to be good from Alabama than we have from Georgia. I'm still scratching my head about that Kentucky game.
Yeah.
It just didn't make any sense.
And they were lucky that Stoops didn't go for it. They kind of bailed him
out. Yeah. And there's still not really an answer in terms of the passing game in the absence of Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey. Carson Beck, for as many gifts as he has, I don't think he is this guy who's just an elite quarterback that can overcome the absence of guys who can catch and make plays after the catch. I think Georgia's struggled in pass protection. That was illuminated against Kentucky. Alabama certainly is going to get after that. Jalen Milroe is the best athlete that is going to step on the field in Tuscaloosa. I think it's going to hinge on him. It could be a Heisman caliber performance from him. I feel like we know more about what Alabama can be. However, there's this big emotional thing that there's no Nick Saban anymore. And Kirby Smart, after a near loss to Kentucky, I have a feeling in Athens, he was whipping people into shape, pun intended, just not being literal about that, but like Kirby Smart being like, hey, we got to get our stuff together. We're playing Alabama. And this is as much of a statement as it is for the program as it is the X's and O's that we'll see go down on the field.
Before we let you run, tell me what you got cooking with TNA Wrestling, by the way.
We are live tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern on Access TV and TNA Plus. We are on the march towards Bound for Glory. It's our biggest event of the year, Saturday, October 26th. We're going to be live on pay-per-view and TNA Plus in Detroit, Michigan. Tonight, we're going to find out the number one contender to the TNA World Champion, Nick Nemeth. If you haven't heard of Joe Hendry, go online and look for memes because he is a global phenomenon. So he's fighting TNA original Frankie Kazarian tonight to find out who challenges Nick Nemeth for the world title. So it's been a really crazy year in professional wrestling, in WWE, AEW, and then for us in TNA. And we're riding the wave. We're having a lot of fun right now, and TNA's never been hotter.
Is there any beef with you and McAfee? Because, I heard the little jab in the beginning. You threw that in nicely. McAfee thought West Virginia was going to go win a national championship.
Well, I think he was actually putting over Penn State and after he saw them. But I thought it was cute that he did his show on the West Virginia campus the night before the game, Penn State and West Virginia. I understand he played for West Virginia, went to school there, a lot of fond memories. You're trying to get a show out there. But, yeah, I thought it was cute. I didn't really think West Virginia had much of a chance against Penn State. And then he was very outright talking about how Penn State could perform. So I feel like I got to see some of the early days of Pat McAfee blossoming because I remember working with him in the booth and seeing what he could do from a commentary standpoint in Orlando, Florida, in WWE, and being like, oh my God, this guy has everything that you need. And then he's wrestling matches in NXT, and he's doing commentary on WWE and WrestleMania. So it's been really amazing to see what Pat has accomplished.
Yeah, he used to work with us here briefly, and I always loved the conversations I had with Pat. So good luck to him. Obviously, I don't think he needs it because, man, that dude's,
I think he's doing all right.
Been very successful.
Financially and otherwise, yeah.
All righty, Tom, appreciate the time. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you, Zach. Appreciate it.
There he is, Tom Hannifan, kind enough to join us once again. Make sure you check out his podcast that he hosts, State of State, across the Believe podcast network. We'll take a break. We'll come on back, and when we do return, 3 things to watch tonight for the matchup between the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Football Giants. Update time first. Here he is, Marco Belletti.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
Well, Zach, it has been a struggle for the Cowboys to begin the season. 1-2, trying to get right against a team they have flat out owned. Winners of 13 of the last 14 against the Giants, and this looks like a game that the Cowboys have to have. But for Micah Parsons, he always feels that urgency.
I feel like every game is really must win, right? You talk about in the last 2 years, we were 1 game off a number 1 seed, things like that. So I think every game has equal importance. But I think just in particular, like, I would like to get the ball back rolling again, getting back in the win column, getting to what we know best, and, get the ball rolling.
Couple games going in baseball. Cardinals lead the Rockies 8-5. They're in the 8th. They head to the 8th inning. Final game of the Coliseum. A's trying to go out with a victory. They lead the Rangers 3-2. Everything else done thus far. The Royals and Tigers remaining tied for the final 2 wild cards in the American League. Kansas City pinch hit go-ahead 2-run single from Adam Frazier, part of a 3-run ninth. They pulled away from the Nationals 7-4. Tigers, they came back on the race 4-3 thanks to 2 in the 8th. White Sox, 3rd straight win, keeps them at 120 losses. Blanked the Angels 7-0. Brewers, they knocked off the Pirates 5-2. And Derrick Rose announced his retirement after 16 years in the NBA, including an MVP. I'm Marco Belletti.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on Instagram. Our handle is Infinity Sports Network. That's Infinity Sports Network to follow us on Instagram.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, rocking and rolling, Zach Gelb Show. Final segment of the day on the Infinity Sports Network. Stu, I've had a lot of soup this week, by the way. Just with my throat being like itchy for a day. And then my nose just having the sniffles for the last few days. I had a vegetable broth on Monday and Tuesday. And I actually, this is going to sound disgusting, but it actually tasted really good. I still wanted to eat the chicken sausage that I had. So I put the chicken sausage in the air fryer and then threw it in the soup to use that as the base. And then since I ran out of the vegetable broth on Tuesday, I went back to the store and I got butternut squash. And I used that as the broth, creamy butternut squash, which was very good. And I had 12 chicken meatballs with some cheese inside of them. So I put 6 in the broth last night, and I'm going to put 6 in the broth tonight as well. So I feel like tomorrow I'm going to wake up and I'm going to feel great. I haven't been feeling horrible, to be clear. But I just have like one of these, what is it called? The head cold, I think.
Yeah. I think I had the same thing as you.
I think you may have gave it to me.
Very possible.
Yeah.
I started feeling not great Monday.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh.
So were you Tuesday?
I think I was Monday.
Okay.
Yeah. I remember 2 weeks ago you looked like you were Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, though.
Yes, that was an
bad.
allergy day.
Yeah.
This, I think like you said earlier, I think this week was, okay, Saturday was like 80 degrees. I was in the sun, and then the next day it was like 50.
Yeah. It's either we're all like really sick around here, or I think it's more so the latter at that point. Because I feel fine. Yeah. I've worked out every day this week, an hour a day on the elliptical, lifted some weights. Like, I feel fine, but I just don't feel 100%. And the moment I was in the Poconos and I thought it was going to be cold, like I went to the Poconos in sweatshirt and jeans. And when I got there, I'm like, got to take the sweatshirt off, got to take the jeans off and go to shorts and a T-shirt. And then I came back to New York and I was walking into work on Sunday. And it was a little bit chilly walking down the West Side Highway. I go, hot to cold this time of the year happens every year. So that's where we're at right now. So if you want to come over for some soup tonight, let me know. You want some meatball butternut squash soup, a Zach Gelb special. All righty, when we get to tonight, I did make a bet on this game. I had an odds boost. I'm really a sucker for these odds boosts, by the way. Now, I did hit a parlay. It was on Monday, which was good. It was an anytime touchdown parlay. Hit it right out of the gate. It was Jamar Chase, and then it was James Cook. Wish I bet them both first touchdown. Would have been a lot more money. So I had some extra funds in the account. I'm starting to get a little nervous about this, though, because I saw the line earlier in the week was like 6.5. Now it's down to 5.5. I think the Cowboys should smoke the Giants tonight. So I took the Cowboys. I got it at 5.5. Now, here are 3 things to watch in this game tonight. Number 1, the only way the Giants win this game is they run the ball, and they run the ball all night long with Devin Motor Singletary. This needs to be a giant running game. And Daniel Jones needs to use his legs as well. So I look for this Cowboys rushing defense. They got to show a pulse. It's one thing to get abused by King Henry and Lamar Jackson. You know, you can't get abused even though Daniel Jones is mobile. You can't get abused, and Motor Singletary's a solid back. You can't let those 2 guys beat you. So my eyes are on the Cowboys rush defense right out of the gate. Number 2, Malik Nabers. Through the first 3 weeks on the offensive side of the ball, it's either Jaden Daniels or Malik Nabers is the offensive rookie of the year. You know, Marvin Harrison Jr. had a very good second game, but you got to see him and Kyler Murray develop more of a chemistry. I want to see if Malik Nabers becomes the national sensation tonight. Like, if you watch college football, you know how great that guy is. However, even though I double dip, like I watch all the college football games on Saturday and I watch all the NFL games on Sunday, there are some people, and I think it's more in the East Coast, which it's like, oh, I'm either college or the NFL. I can't commit to both. And I say, what miserable life do you live if you're one of those people? So tonight is one of those nights with even as great of a game that Malik Nabers had the other day. It was a 1 p.m. Eastern time game up against the Cleveland Browns. Cowboys, Giants, Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime Video. Hopefully Al Michael sounds like he's awake for this matchup. And you have Kirk Herbstreit in the booth with his dog. This could be a big game. Big game for Malik Nabers. It seems like that's the only way the Giants are going to have much on offense this year, even though I said the first key was running the football and they have to run the ball all night long. For the Giants to be better than what people expect, they need Malik Nabers to be all that. And by the way, the Dependable Player of the Week, this is what you call a professional read, folks, is sponsored by Depend and the Prostate Cancer Foundation, reminding you that health is a long game and screening for prostate cancer is easier than ever. Learn more at Depend.com. And this week's player is Giants rookie wide receiver. Look at that. Malik Nabers in Sunday's win over the Cleveland Browns. He had 8 catches for 78 yards and 2 touchdowns on the season. The rookie ranked 2nd in the league in catches with 23, 5th in receiving yards with 271, and is tied for the most receiving touchdowns in the league with 3. And finally, here's what I look for. And this is more so a Dallas Cowboys point. The Cowboys, through the first 3 games of the season, they blew out the Browns. All right, you give them credit when you blow out the Browns. Then, in week 2 and week 3, they got blown out. They got blown out by the Saints, and they were about to get blown out by the Ravens, but the Ravens said, we kind of want to treat this game like the Raiders game. where we'll let you back in it, but you know what, this time we're not going to lose the game because they had such a big lead, a bigger lead than they had up against those Raiders. I want to see from the Cowboys tonight, who I don't think are a good team. I don't. I think the Cowboys are like a 9-win football team. I said before the year they're going to miss the playoffs. But if the Cowboys can be a good team this year, and if they can do what they've done the last 3 years, I'm not even saying win 12 games, which they've done the last 3 years. I'm saying make the playoffs, right? Be a wild card team or a division champion. I don't think they'll win the division this year. As much as I don't like Nick Sirianni right now, the Eagles just have too much talent. But be in the playoffs and then have your misery happen on wild card weekend. If that's going to happen, they need to blow out the Giants tonight. Because the Cowboys are still superior and the Giants are still inferior. So if the Cowboys win this game tonight and it's close, it's not like I'm going to get on the air tomorrow and be like, woo, how about them Cowboys? And if the Giants somehow win, man, tomorrow's show, just walk into work, put my feet up, and turn on the microphone. It'd be the easiest show I've ever done if the Cowboys lose this game. But if the Cowboys blow out the Giants, it's going to be like a tease. And you will have some Cowboys fans that will be like, oh, there we go, Dallas is back. When in reality, they just beat up on a crappy team. But if you're a good football team, you beat up on a crappy football team. So I want to see if tonight's going to be a close game or if it's going to be a blowout. I like the Cowboys laying the points tonight, 5.5 points. All righty. That will do it on our Thursday edition of the Zach Gelb Show Extravaganza right here on the Infinity Sports Network. Big thanks to each and every one of you for chiming on in, whether it's via the Infinity Sports Network affiliates around the country, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, or streaming live on YouTube. Big thanks to everyone on the phones. Did not expect a Jim Zorn over Russell Wilson call today. Big thank you to Stuart Kovacs and also Moist Mike as well, and El Capitan Marco Belletti. We'll be back tomorrow for a big Football Friday. We have a good guest picker tomorrow. I will say that. Someone that all of you know around here at Infinity Sports Network. But we'll talk to you, Manana, everybody, at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. We out. Enjoy the game today, everybody. Bye-bye. Peace.
You're in a 5